Welcome to the Fantasy Audiobook. My Hero Academia. Obtain Soul Fruit and the Strongest Wooden Power. Chapter 26. Facing 8,000,000 and ear-ringing, Yunfang did not want to do any answer at this moment. Birth of the Tree Realm. The clouds and wind were silent. Click, click. In the ground, many huge tree roots suddenly burst out, swinging flexibly like snakes towards the sky. Click, click. The roots of the trees kept rising from the ground again, covering the surroundings like a flood. Brain Wu, it's over to you. When he saw countless large tree roots rushing towards them, he instructed. After turning around a few times, he slowly stepped forward and waved his fist in his hand to continuously bombard the oncoming tree roots. Boom! The sound continued to sound, and thick smoke covered half of the simulated hill disaster site. And at this moment, the entire training ground has turned into a forest. The other side. This Yunfang's, good, so powerful. Boom said in surprise. Not only the heroic people, but also the enemies of the Alliance, they are undoubtedly in shock at this moment. This kid, since in an instant the training ground turned into a forest. Aizawa sneered. Ahem. Erlang Shangshang coughed a few times, because the dust and fog were too big, he couldn't see the surroundings clearly at the moment. 8,000,000, Yunfang, are you all right? Erlang Shangshang shouted. I'm okay. 8,000,000 replied. What about Yunfang? Erlang Shangshang asked. Seeing that there was no response, she was a little panicked, reached out and touched, but when she didn't know whose skin she touched, a hot feeling was transmitted from her fingers to her brain nerves. She subconsciously withdrew her hand and wondered, 8,000,000, is this you? Why is the skin of the body so hot? Quote. 8,000,000 Beilong paused and said, it's not me. Quote. It's me, phew, Yunfang gasped. Cloud wind, are you okay? Why is the body so hot? Hibika asked worriedly. It's okay. Wood Elf, clear this smoke. Yunfang said calmly. Yes, master, the Wood Elf replied, and then created a powerful wind that blew away the thick smoke. Immediately after, 8,000,000, Erlang's vision returned to normal, but the next second they were frightened by the scene in front of them. It's all made by you? Hibika asked, and 8,000,000 instantly thought of the photo, followed by muttering, sure enough, it's your personality. Quote. Moisture. Yunfang's body continued to emit white flowers and hot steam, and at this moment, the brain had been penetrated through the body by the branches of the big tree. At present, the operation has been temporarily blocked. The dead-handled wooden hanging and black mist were not behind the brain, but the next moment, with the appearance of a whirlpool. The dead-handled wooden hanging appeared from the inside again, and seeing Brain Wu's appearance, his breathing began to become rapid. Constantly reaching out to scratch his neck, red nail marks were printed on his neck. Wow, I can't believe that a child has done this. When the dead-handled wooden crane finished saying this, he suddenly stopped scratching. Look at the clouds. But it doesn't matter, it's someone who can't live tomorrow anyway. The dead-handled wooden crane added. Brain nothing, he shouted after that. After receiving the order again, Brain Wu ripped off the trap blower itself. Immediately after that, half of the body fell to the ground. What is he going to do? Quote, it won't be, since he ripped off half of his body. 8,000,000 said with a solemn face. But at this moment, Yunfang was exceptionally calm, and he guessed that since his brain did not hesitate to get off half of his body to escape his control, then there must be his intentions, so he should control his actions again in the first place. When his upper body fell to the ground, Yunfang quickly launched an attack. The roots of the tree on the ground directly wounded him to death, and finally formed a super large tree. This time, Yunfang did not leave him a face, but directly sealed him inside the tree. When the dead-handled wooden crane saw this scene, he did not panic, but leaked a hint of unsettling laughter. Wow, this kid is so dangerous. Black fog. Quote. Got it, dead-handled wooden hanging. Black Mist said calmly. Immediately after, Black Mist directly used his personality to make a portal, and the brain of the half of the body crawled out. The next moment, at the wound on half of his body, a mass of red muscles appeared. The red muscles pinched the legs at a speed visible to the naked eye, the blink of an eye became a normal brain, and the red muscles turned into the original skin color. Body, the body grows again. 8,000,000 faces are very ugly. What the hell is this monster? Erlang Shangshang was also shocked. This is a super regenerative brain, and the brain is nothing more than a super high performance sandbag man who has been modified to withstand Olmet's 100% state. Deal with your group of children, that's more than enough. The dead-handled wooden crane leaked the eerie laughter. Yunfang, what else can you do? 8,000,000 asked. Ultra-high performance sandbag man, with my current physical strength, coupled with strength, I can barely deal with him with 46 with all my strength. Yunfang analyzed. Who 4 and who 6? Hibika asked. I'm 4 and 6, if my fitness is in the previous state, I should be able to beat him. Yunfang said in a deep voice. Although it is said that chakra is not needed to come to this world to release Mu Duan, it requires physical strength, and with Yunfang's current physical strength, he can only release one tree realm birth. In this battle, Yunfang had a new goal in his mind, that is, to find a way to increase his physical strength. Plus how many win rates can we have? 8,000,000 asked. Estimated, 2.5 bars. Yunfang replied. 8,000,000 and Erlang Shangshang couldn't help frowning. Why did their winning rate become lower, which made them very puzzled. But it's true, because their personalities can't help at all, this brain was created to defeat the 100% state of Olmet. With the current strength of 8,000,000 and Erlang Shangshang, he can't hold up a punch at all. At this moment, a hoarse voice came from below the hill inside. Finally found you. As the words fell, Aizawa Muda and Bakugao defeated themselves, and the three people fell behind Yunfang. Why is someone always disturbing me? The dead-handled wooden crane said slightly unwillingly. Yunfang did a good job. Aizawa praised too much. This one called Brain Wu has the ability to super regenerate, and the impact can be absorbed, so to speak, it is a bit tricky. Yunfang explained what he knew. As long as we hold out for 10 minutes, someone will come to support us. Aizawa said calmly. 10 minutes, that's okay. Yunfang Dao. Even if Aizawa didn't come to support, now the entire training ground is the home of Yunfang, and he can control all the trees. It takes 10 minutes to survive, which is still a breeze. Go. Brain nothing, let these so-called professional heroes who do not know the height of the sky try to spare. The dead-handled wooden hanger said in a deep voice. Brain Wu nodded, then stepped back and kicked his foot, and rushed towards Yunfang at a super high speed. Yunfang sneered. Don't forget, this is my home field. Quote. As soon as the words were spoken, the big trees around Yunfang seemed to have spirituality, and went directly towards the brain. Brain Wu's movement was blocked, his movement stopped, and he kept punching the oncoming tree. Bang scorched and frozen directly stepped on the ground, released the cold ice personality, and directly froze the whole person without brain. Go and die. Bakugao Katsuki jumped up, and the sound of sparks crackling in his hands. Immediately, he used his personality to punch it. When Bakugao Katsuki's fist was close to his brain, suddenly, the black mist came in front of him and opened the personality of teleportation. If Bakugao Katsuki crosses it, where he will be teleported is a mystery. Just as this 1,000 troops were launched, a branch directly tied Bakugao Katsuki's feet, and then pulled it backwards. It's this kid again. The teeth of the dead handle wood itched, habitually reached out to scratch the neck, and immediately followed, the red nail prints and the old and the new were added together. Although this kid is said to be a child, I think his strength is no worse than that of ordinary professional heroes. Black Mist said in a deep voice. The dead-handled wooden crane calmed down, then laughed out of his voice, and said towards the Black Mist, since this kid likes to wrap people around people with wood so much, isn't there exactly one person on our side, someone who can release flames, just burned him. Quote. And whatever his flame points to, he can do. I see. Black Mist said in a deep voice. Immediately, in the blink of an eye, he disappeared in front of Yunfang. Now 6 against 1, do you think there is still a chance of victory? Aizawa asked. Hehe, whoever tells you is me. Dead-handled wooden hanger sneered. Sure enough, the next moment, the whirlpool appeared again, and immediately after, a red-haired man walked out from inside. Without saying a word, the red-haired man directly ignited a flame in his hand and placed it on Brain Wu's body, and soon, the cold ice was melted by this flame. And the brain is even more exaggerated, directly using cells that have not been frozen, and an intact body has grown in an instant. It's 6 vs 4 now. Dead-handled wooden hanger sneered. After speaking, his laughter stopped abruptly. Why hasn't Olmec appeared yet? Did he only appear after killing this group of people? The dead-handled wooden hanger muttered. The target of the dead-handled wooden crane was not Yunfang them, but Olmec, who also learned that Olmec would appear here. That's why I came here with no brains, but it's been a while since I came here, and Olmec still hasn't appeared. This couldn't help but make him feel unwilling. If that's the case, let's kill all these people, brain nothing, on. The dead-handled wooden hanger ordered. After hearing the order of the dead-handled wooden hanging, Brain Wu rushed towards Yunfang and them. And it's very fast. You guys are behind me. After Aizawa dropped a sentence, he immediately ran straight towards Brain Wu. Just when Aizawa was about to collide with Brain Wu, he quickly used his personality to eliminate Brain Wu's personality. But just like that, he collided with Brain Wu's fist, which was still very difficult. Yunfang just wanted to cast Mu Dun when suddenly a voice sounded in his ears. Your opponent is me. Yunfang subconsciously looked to the side. At this time, in a whirlpool, the dead-handled wooden crane stretched out his hand and was about to touch Yunfang's body. Yunfang couldn't dodge at this moment, and he had no choice but to wave his fist, exerting the strength of his whole body, and bombarded it with a punch. The dead-handled wooden hanger originally wanted to come out with his whole body, but unexpectedly, he was punched back by Yunfang. The next moment, the whirlpool also disappeared, and behind the brain, the dead-handled wooden crane flew out directly. Yunfang watched as the skin of his fist fell to the ground like fragments. Although I was punched by you, it is not a loss. The dead-handled wooden crane got up from the ground and looked at Yunfang with a steady look and said. Yunfang sneered back, is it? No loss. Quote, I saw his words fall, hot steam came out of his fist, and the next moment, new skin grew. When the dead-handled wooden crane saw this scene, he was directly stunned. What the hell is this kid? The dead-handled wooden crane began to grab his neck again, because the cloud wind really gave him too much headache. Not only were the dead-handled wooden hangers shocked, but even they were surprised. What the hell is going on here? 8,000,000 asked. The others also looked at Yunfang with a puzzled expression, hoping that Yunfang could give them an answer. Yunfang sneered. Your brain does not have super regenerative ability, and I also have this ability. Quote. What? Everyone was startled and looked at Yunfang. You brat, is it a monster? Black Mist said in a deep voice. Since there are people who are born to be so perfect, it is simply jealous. The tone of the dead-handled wooden hanging is very strange. Moisture. On the other side, thick black smoke continued to fill the sky, because this training ground was basically sealed, so this black smoke flew to the side of the cloud wind. What's going on? 8,000,000 looked back, but found that a raging fire was burning on the other side. This fire was released by the red-haired man before. You set the fire? The dead-handled wooden crane asked towards the red-haired man next to him. The black mist was released. The red-haired man replied. Immediately after, the dead-handled wooden crane cast its gaze towards the black mist. The black mist froze for a moment, and then said, Didn't you order a fire to burn these woods? Quote. The dead-handled wooden hanger reached out again to scratch his neck, and some parts of his neck had been scratched by himself. You fools, I mean to tell you to come here and burn his wood with fire. Now the fire over there can no longer be controlled, and the black smoke will recruit professional heroes faster. The dead-handled wooden crane was directly about to be blown up by his companions. No matter, since Olmec can't be killed, let's kill this group of guys. Dead-handled wooden hanger said in a deep voice. Bang! At this moment, Aizawa Muda collided with Brain Wuxi, and finally he pushed in front of Yunfang and them. Aizawa wiped the blood stains on his mouth, and there was nothing to single out with his brain. It was clear that Aizawa had the upper hand. Boom! The fire is getting bigger and bigger. Use your ice to extinguish these flames, otherwise, this training ground will develop to the point of helplessness. Aizawa said in a deep voice. Got it. Boom Zhao nodded, just wanted to leave, but was pulled by Yunfang's hand. Teacher, let me go. Yunfang said in a deep voice. Is your personality okay? Aizawa said with some doubt. Since I have the ability to turn the training ground into a forest in an instant, then I naturally have a way to extinguish this fire. Cloud Wind Channel. Aizawa hesitated for a while, and finally chose to trust Yunfang. That's up to you, Aizawa said hoarsely. After replying, Yunfeng quickly rushed towards the place where the fire was raging. Before the cloud wind reached the place of the raging fire, the temperature around it was already much higher. Hot beads of sweat fell to the ground along Yunfeng's cheeks. Everything around was refracted golden yellow by the fire. Midoriya-eyed Hisa and Minoru Minda are desperately digging water into a lake to put out a fire. Every time they poured water into the fire, the water was like gasoline, increasing the fire. This situation couldn't help but make their brows lock. Why is this? This fire can't be extinguished at all. Midoriya Izuku reached out and wiped the beads of sweat from his forehead, his face anxious. Or we won't pour it. Hurry up and escape, or we won't be able to get out. Minoru Minda said in horror. Midoriya Izuku shook his head and said in a deep voice, if we don't water it, the fire will be even bigger, and then not only the training ground will be burned, but even the outside will be implicated. Quote. But, Midoriya-kun, just the two of us are of little use. Let's run away, Mineta said slowly. What Mikita said is not unreasonable, and continuing to fight fires will not play any role at all. Midoriya Izuku began to hesitate. Perhaps this method was wrong from the beginning. The correct way should be to notify those present to evacuate, so that the personality can spray water to put out the fire. Just as they hesitated, the cloud wind fell from the sky and fell behind Midoriya Izuku. After hearing the movement, Midoriya Izuku's nerves tensed. Thinking that the enemy was coming, he turned his head stiffly, and when he saw that it was Yunfeng, his uneasy expression was relieved. Looking at this raging fire, Yunfeng couldn't help but frown. And before he went in, his whole body had already begun to heat up. This fire can't be saved, let's quickly inform the others to leave. Midoriya Izuku said anxiously towards Yunfeng. Yunfeng pondered for a while, and calmly said, you go and inform his people to leave. Quote. Midoriya Izuku was stunned and asked, what about you? Quote. Extinguish this fire. How can you alone extinguish this huge fire? Midoriya Ichido. I have my own plans. Yunfeng looked at this turbulent flame path. Yes, Midoriya-kun, let's hurry up and inform the others. Yunfeng is so powerful, he must have a way. Mineta said in a deep voice. She did not trust Yunfeng. He said this simply because he was afraid to find a reason to leave. Midoriya Izuku hesitated for a while, and said in a deep voice, okay, then I'll go and inform the others. If this fire can't be saved, you should quickly withdraw. Quote. Yunfeng nodded. Then, Midoriya Dehisa and Mineta left quickly. Phew. Yunfeng took a deep breath and moved closer to the fire. He stretched out his hands, and the next moment, on his hands, a wisp of white-like smoke appeared out of thin air. The cloud wind immediately threw this white smoke into the flames, and the next moment, the flames directly formed the shape of a tornado, constantly absorbing all the flames around it. Suddenly, above the flames, a pair of eyes and a mouth appeared out of thin air. Its huge body looked at the cloud wind. From now on, your name will be Emperor Yan, and I will be your master. Yunfeng said in a deep voice. Since the Yan Emperor was also made with Yunfeng's own soul, the Yan Emperor had an independent personality. The next moment, Emperor Yan began to shrink, and finally turned into a golden sphere that laughed like a head. A cute look smiled. Got it, master. Quote. The fire had been extinguished, and some of the wood that had not been burned to ashes emitted thick white smoke. In order for you not to be so conspicuous, you should stay in my body first, so that the wood elf is not so lonely. Yunfeng said calmly. Emperor Yan nodded his little head. In the end, Yunfeng directly sucked Emperor Yan into his body. And Aizawa's side has basically been beaten by the brain. Covered in blood, even the scorched frieze has exploded and defeated himself, and he was beaten by the brain so that he couldn't stand up. Bright red blood stained the huge roots of the tree beneath them. Aizawa was kneeling on the ground, bright red blood constantly running down his cheeks. And 8,000,000 and ear-ringing were standing behind Aizawa Shimida. They were better, and they were all slightly injured. Teacher, or let's retreat first, 8,000,000 said in a deep voice. Now there is a feeling that staying by the teacher's side is not yet safe by Yunfeng's side. Aizawa glanced back at 8,000,000, and then said in a low voice, you guys go first, I'll block them for you in front. Quote. Snap. The dead-handled wooden crane clapped his palm and said with a smile, Hee hee, it's amazing, it's amazing. But what I hate the most is this kind of person, brainless. Brain Wu rolled his eyes, then kicked his legs, and the whole person quickly rushed towards Aizawa Takeda. Dead-handled wooden hanging, what should we do next? Black Mist suddenly asked aloud on the side. As I just said, the black smoke of the fire will quickly attract more professional heroes, kill them, just retreat, Olmec looks like he won't come out. Dead-handled wooden hanger said in a deep voice. However, look over there, it was fiery red before, but now it has returned to its original appearance, and only the green smoke is rising. The red-haired man added. After hearing his words, the dead wooden hanging, and the black mist, cast their eyes towards him. Sure enough, now there is no previous fiery red appearance over there, only green smoke is wafting. Fire, really put out that kid. The dead-handled wooden hanger flickered. Now the situation has changed again, have the rules changed? Black Mist asked again. The rules will not change, kill them and withdraw. The dead-handled wooden crane insists on its own rules. Black Mist nodded and continued. Red Sun, those two imps in the back will be handed over to you. Quote. Saying that, Black Mist quickly opened the portal, signaling Red Sun to walk in and teleport him to the side of 8 million hundreds. Leave it to me. Red Sun nodded confidently. At this moment, there was a loud bang. The front door of the training ground fell directly into the ground. This sound directly spread throughout every part of the training ground. The dead-handled wooden crane and everyone present couldn't help but look in the direction of the sound. Step, trample, trample, quote. In the shallow smoke, there were heavy footsteps, and immediately after, a burly man slowly appeared in their line of sight. And he is Olmec. I had a sense of foreboding, so I interrupted the principal's conversation and rushed over. I happened to meet the Iida boy halfway through, so I probably heard about the situation here. While speaking, Olmec gritted his teeth and continued with anger in his tone. It's true, I'm extremely angry with myself, how scared the children are, and how hard the juniors work. Quote. However, because of this, I will now stand up my chest and say at once that it is already fine. Olmec fiddled with his tie, and the next moment, he directly ripped off the tie, and said with a somewhat hideous face, because I came. Quote. When everyone saw that it was Olmec's coming, they all leaked excited expressions. In their eyes, Olmec's arrival was like a savior. Olmec, hee hee, the situation has changed. Keep fighting. Quote. The dead-handled wooden crane slowly turned around, looked at Olmec not far away, and chuckled, I've been waiting for you for a long time, hero. Social garbage. Brain without stopping, now there is something serious that needs you. Dead-handled wooden hanger said in a deep voice. Brain Wu stopped his hand and threw the scarred Aizawa Takeda into the ground. At this moment, Aizawa had fainted. Red Sun, these 3 guys, and the 2 dying guys lying on the ground are handed over to you. Black Fog, let's go, the dead-handled wooden crane said calmly. Black Mist nodded, and then opened into a portal, and the dead-handled wooden hanger and Brain Wu walked in. The next moment, all 3 of them disappeared here. Only Red Sun remained, and he unleashed his personality, and the flames wrapped his hands. Who is better to kill first? Red Sun looked at the 8 million hundred and leaked a bloodthirsty expression. In the eyes of the Red Sun, 8 million hundred are now just cattle and sheep to be slaughtered, and there is no threat at all. Whoops! 8 million hundred dances moved the iron pipe in his hand and pointed it at him, revealing an expression of rather death than yielding. Red Sun kicked his legs backwards, just about to rush towards 8 million hundreds, but the next moment, his feet directly wrapped around the roots of the tree. Immediately after, the cloud wind fell from the sky and landed in front of 8 million hundreds, and said with an expressionless face. You, what do you want to do to my classmates? Quote, Cloud wind, 8 million hundreds saw that it was the cloud wind coming, and the tense mood of the whole person was relieved. You 2 leave first, Yunfeng said in a deep voice. But, teacher, they. Before the 8 million hundred words were finished, Yunfeng interjected, leave all this to me, they will be fine. Quote, 8 million nodded, and finally fled here quickly with Hibiki. My personality just matches yours, do you think you have a chance to win? Red Sun's hands were burned by the flames, and then the roots of the tree that tied his feet were burned to ashes. Playing with fire, huh? Emperor Yan, there is a brat here who doesn't know the height of the sky and the thickness of the earth who wants to play with fire with you. Yunfeng said in a deep voice. The next moment, a golden yellow light emitted from the abdomen of directly Yunfeng. The next moment, the Mengyan Emperor appeared in front of Yunfeng's eyes. Master, is that him? Change back to your fighting appearance, Yunfeng said calmly. With Yunfeng's order, Emperor Yan directly changed from a cute appearance into a large flame. His eyes stared sharply at the red sun. Hong Ri was stunned for a moment, and he wondered in his heart what this flame in front of him was. Kill him, Yunfeng said in a deep voice. Yes, master, Emperor Yan replied in a hoarse voice. Kill me, then see if you have the ability. Although Red Sun didn't know what the flame in front of him was, he was still very confident in defeating Yunfeng. Saying that, a cloud of flame leaked out of his hands and released it directly in the direction of Yunfeng. Ah! When he was about to hit Yunfeng, Emperor Yan opened his mouth and swallowed it in one gulp. It's so unpalatable, Emperor Yan immediately spat out in the direction of the red sun. Suddenly, a flame larger than the one he had just released flew directly over. Red Sun was startled and quickly dodged. Boom! The hill of the simulation field was suddenly blown out of a huge pit by this flame. The hills were crumbling in debris, and large and small stones kept falling. What the hell is going on with this weird flame? Could it be that he also has combat power? Red Sun muttered after standing firm. Drink. Emperor Yan directly spewed out a huge flame towards the Red Sun again. Seeing this situation, Red Sun frowned and quickly dodged. Red Sun cursed, jumped up directly, and a small fireball suddenly appeared in his hand. He smashed towards Emperor Yan. But it was of no use at all, and Red Sun had to take dozens of steps back again. Emperor Yan, if you are grinding, you can go home, understand? Yunfeng said expressionlessly. Emperor Yan shivered when he saw Yunfeng angry, and the next moment, Emperor Yan began to grow infinitely. The entire training ground was refracted by him to a golden yellow. When the people on the other side saw this scene, they were immediately stunned. Tread. 8,000,000 and Erlang Shangshang saw that everything around them turned golden yellow, subconsciously stopped and turned around. When they saw the huge flame, the two of them began to lie. Yunfeng, you're not going to be fine, 8,000,000 said worriedly. Look, that flame has a mouth, and an eye. Erlang Shangshang said in surprise. When 8,000,000 Bai saw her eyes, she couldn't help but be stunned. What the hell is going on here? Why does fire have eyes? Quote. This is so weird, Erlang Shangshang said in a whimperous manner. Not only did they see their eyes, but basically everyone on the training ground. It's scary. It's the first time I've seen fire and eyes when I'm this big. Is the hero Andeva here? It's possible. Maybe it's really the hero Andeva who came. Quote. On the training ground, there are various theories, but none of them are close to the truth. Seeing that Emperor Yan suddenly became so huge, Hong Ri was frightened and stupid, and his face condensed dense beads of sweat. You, a person who does not know the height of the sky and the thickness of the earth, since you are the enemy of my master, now I will let you turn into ashes. Emperor Yan's voice fell, and his huge body pressed directly towards the Red Sun. Seeing that this was not good, Red Sun quickly fled, but because Emperor Yan's body was too large, even though his speed was fast. But there is still no escape the fate of being suppressed. Immediately with a boom, a huge explosion sounded throughout the training ground. Along with this, a powerful air flow directly lifted the roof of the training ground, and many things around it were destroyed by the air flow. After this explosion, the battle between Brain and Olmec stopped. Isn't that the direction of the Red Sun? What happened? The dead-handled wooden hanger said in a deep voice. It seems that something has been detonated, probably caused by Red Sun's personality. Black Mist reasoned. Red Sun's personality. When did that kid's personality reach this level? Maybe he has been hiding from us. The dead-handled wooden hanger pondered for a while. It's possible. After all, this kid doesn't seem to take us seriously all the time. Black Mist continued. Cut. The dead-handled wooden crane snorted in disdain. Dead-handled wooden hanging. Did you just see that flame has eyes? Black Mist asked softly. Hee, interesting. After I go back, I have to study the Red Sun kid well, but the goal now is to kill Olmec. Dead-handled wooden hanger said in a deep voice. In the billowing smoke, Emperor Yan changed back to his cute appearance, flew to Yunfeng's side, and said softly, Master, I have burned him to ashes. Yunfeng originally planned to take away a little life from his body, but unexpectedly, Emperor Yan directly burned him to ashes. However, it doesn't matter, after all, he has more than 500 years of life in his hands. Nice job, Yunfeng said gently. Master, I see that there are many people below, or I will go and burn them to ashes together. Emperor Yan looked at the people below the hill and asked towards Yunfeng with a smile on his face. Nope, it's too dangerous. Yunfeng refused. Don't worry, Master, they can't hurt me. Emperor Yan said with a smile. Yunfeng raised his eyebrows, and then said slowly, Who is afraid that they will hurt you? I am afraid that you will not only burn the enemy to ashes but also Xiangying's students. Quote. Indeed, if the Yan Emperor returned it like he had just fought the Red Sun, a big move would be smashed, whether it was friend or foe, all in one pot. All right, Master. Emperor Yan nodded. Let's go back to the body first, otherwise, it will be too conspicuous. Yunfeng whispered, and immediately absorbed the Yan Emperor into his body. Tread. At this time, 8,000,000 and Hibika ran back, and when they climbed the hill, they saw Yunkas and Aizawa Mita lying on the ground, and the three of them were alive. They breathed a sigh of relief. Yunfeng, are you all right? Hibika asked. Yunfeng shook his head with a slight smile and said, I'm fine, but the teacher looks quite serious. Quote. I'll bandage the teacher simply. 8,000,000 took out a white bandage inside the backpack and bandaged it where Aizawa was bleeding. By the way, Yunfeng, what happened here just now? 8,000,000 Bai suddenly asked. We just saw that flame below. There are eyes and mouth. Is this the enemy's personality move? Hibika added. For this matter, Yunfeng did not want to explain too much, and said perfunctorily, Quote. What kind of personality is this? So weird. 8,000,000 Bai sighed. Yunfeng shook his head, indicating that he didn't know. Okay, reluctantly help the teacher stop the bleeding. 8,000,000 people slowly got up. Then, she went to see Bakugao Katsuki, and the scorched injury, the two of them were fine, they were only skin injuries. Now it's just fainting. On the other side, Olmut is fighting with the brain Wuzhong, and with the assistance of the black fog, Olmut now has a slight advantage. The exhaustion of strength is faster than I thought. Olmut thought to himself. At this moment, he frowned, because he didn't have much time left to transform. He must defeat his brain in the shortest possible time, otherwise the consequences will be unimaginable. But no matter what, I have to stand up, because I am a symbol of peace. Olmut said in a low voice. Immediately, his eyes flashed with a ray of light, and the momentum formed a powerful air current, centered on him, and quickly dodged away. Olmut kicked his leg back, and then quickly walked towards Brain Wu. Brain Wu, black fog, on, I see the time to strike. The dead-handled wooden hanger instructed aside. After listening to the order, Brain Wu also rushed towards Olmut. Their fists collided, and each punch caused a powerful air current, which made the original Black Mist want to go over to help, but could not take a step forward. You can only resist the airflow on the sidelines. Olmut used an ability to exceed 100%, and the speed of punches was no longer possible to catch with the naked eye. With every punch, he hit Brain Wu's body. Boom, bang, quote. The surrounding trees were constantly being knocked away, and the ground was constantly being smashed out of deep pits. In the end, Olmut grabbed his brain, jumped up and jumped into the air, and then threw it down fiercely. The next moment, he also fell directly to the ground and said in a deep voice, "Oh enemy. Have you ever heard the phrase rush farther away?" Quote. Pluswitra. Saying that, Olmut directly clenched his fist, exerted the strength of his whole body, and struck fiercely towards the abdomen of Brain Wu. Snap. The airflow directly bounced the trees around Olmut, followed by Brain Wu flying towards the sky, and disappeared from their sight in the blink of an eye. In the thick smoke, Olmut gasped. Sure enough, weakened, in its heyday, only 5 punches were enough, and now I have more than 300 punches. In the end, he couldn't help but laugh solemnly. And, time's up, quote. After Olmut finished speaking, white smoke began to rise from his body. At this moment, underground, huge trees suddenly rose, following closely and merging together, forming a sphere shape. Olmut froze, feeling uneasy. In the darkness, a voice suddenly sounded. Don't worry, teacher, it's me. Yunfeng said calmly. Olmec squeezed out a small voice with difficulty, and then said in a deep voice, "It's you, boy." Quote, "Leave the rest to me, only the two of them can fight a little." Cloud Wind Channel. "Junior, can you?" Olmec asked. "Trust me." Yunfeng didn't explain much, and after saying these 3 words, a small hole suddenly opened on the side. Immediately following Yunfeng out, looking at Yunfeng's back, Olmec leaked a weird smile. "Young man, in my eyes, you will be even greater than me in the future." Olmec thought to himself. Indeed, through the observation of this period, Olmec found that Yunfeng was a genius that was rare in a century. However, when he encountered anything, what appeared in his eyes was calmness. So this time, of course, Olmec chose to believe him. At this moment, the dead-handled wooden hanger was completely unacceptable, and his brain was shot away by Olmec. He reached out desperately and scratched his neck. "Hey, what's going on? It's not weakened at all. Did that guy lie to me?" Quote, "Tread." Yunfeng appeared in front of the dead-handled wooden crane in the black mist, and said in a deep voice, "The two of you are left, there is no need for Olmec to make a move." Quote, the dead-handled wooden hanger was stunned, looking at Yunfeng, his eyes flashing with anger. "It's you kid again." Seeing the appearance of Yunfeng, the dead-handled wooden hanger scratched even more while muttering, "If the brain is not there, it can kill you head-on without any worries." Quote, "But, unfortunately, he is gone, and now, you and I can settle the account properly." Yunfeng said in a deep voice. "Stinky little ghost, don't be too arrogant." Black Mist retorted. "Tread." The dead-handled wooden hanger ran towards Yunfeng without any scruples. "The most important thing now is to avenge Brain Wu, and if you block in front of you, then I will kill you first." Quote, Black Mist saw that the dead-handled wood was hanging, and the back also rushed up quickly. The fitness just recovered a little. "But judging by the previous battles, it is more than enough to deal with the two of you." Yunfeng danced his hands upwards. Several huge tree roots suddenly burst out of the ground, directly entangled the feet of the dead-handled wooden hanger. At this moment, the black mist fell directly on the side of the dead-handled wooden hanger. Then the dead-handled wooden crane directly punched towards the black mist. In the next second, in the face of Yunfeng's, a vortex quickly appeared, and at the same time, a fist also attacked towards Yunfeng. Yunfeng sneered, "Have you forgotten that I also have the super regenerative ability of brain nothing, so do you think I will be afraid of running into you?" Quote, saying that, Yunfeng directly reached out and grabbed his fist, followed closely, and the roots on his feet suddenly loosened. The dead-handled wooden crane shouted angrily, and the next moment, it was directly pulled out of the whirlpool by Yunfeng. Then he fell heavily to the ground quickly cracked, and several hands that grabbed the dead handle fell to the ground. Poof! A mouthful of bright red blood spat directly out of his mouth. Dead-handled wooden hanging. Seeing that this was not good, the black fog quickly rushed towards the cloud wind. Yunfeng's right hand quickly turned into a super large wooden claw, directly grabbed the dead-handled wooden crane on the ground, and quickly retreated a distance backwards. Black Mist quickly unleashed its own personality. The next moment, on the side of Yunfeng, a whirlpool appeared again, but Yunfeng completely ignored it, grabbed the dead-handled wooden crane and smashed it heavily into the ground. The hand on the dead-handled wooden hanging body fell a few more, and this time vomited more blood than the last time. The dead-handled wooden crane wanted to resist, reached out and grabbed Yunfeng's wooden claw, and activated his broken personality, but the wooden claw only lost a little bark. It can be said that it is useless for Yunfeng. On the other side, the black mist constantly attacked towards Yunfeng, and Yunfeng was dodging while hitting the dead-handled wooden crane. Finally, Yunfeng grabbed it with his right hand, turned his left hand into a powerful wooden fist, and knocked the dead-handled wooden hanging away with one blow. Black Mist hurriedly chased after him, activated his personality, and let the dead-handled wooden hanger fall into his portal. Immediately after, he also disappeared. Yunfeng was instantly startled, and subconsciously said, careless. Quote, forget it, it doesn't matter, it's not a loss, at least beat that fool into a half-crippled look. Yunfeng immediately walked in the direction of Olmec, but at this moment, the gate of the training ground opened. Immediately after, a group of professional heroes rushed in. When they saw the training ground, it was a forest, with large trees lying on the ground. What a battle this just happened. Quote, Now is not the time to think about this, hurry up and save this group of children. 2. The principal of Shangying High School also walked in through the gate at this time, and he now shouted. I'm sorry, guys, we're late. I gathered people who can act immediately and rushed over. Olmec, support is coming, what are you going to do now? Yunfeng walked into the sphere and asked Olmec. At this moment, Olmec had become emaciated, and he was lying by the wall, panting heavily. Yunfeng Jr., thank you, but I can't show them like me now. Olmec said in a low tone. Indeed, as a symbol of peace, if Olmec were to know that he had become like this, there would be many people and people would be panicked. Okay, I see, Yunfeng said calmly. Young man Yunfeng, I still hope you can keep it secret for me. Olmec said with a smile squeezed out of the corner of his mouth. Yunfeng nodded. At this moment, the voice of Midoriya Izuku came from outside. Olmec, are you all right? Olmec, Yunfeng boy, trouble me, let him in. Olmec said in a deep voice. Yunfeng nodded, and then opened a hole in the wooden ball. Midoriya Izuku froze for a moment, and then quickly rushed in. Olmec, are you all right? Midoriya Izuku asked worriedly. Well, this little injury, you can't die. Olmec replied in a deep voice. Midoriya Izuku frowned, tears constantly remaining. Olmec, you are safe and sound, it's really great. Quote. Yes, this is really thanks to the Yunfeng boy. Olmec squeezed a smile out of his face. Midoriya Izuku seemed to remember something, and hurriedly said a little anxiously, did he see you? Quote. Don't worry, besides you, he is the second to know among the students. Olmec said calmly. Ah, Midoriya was stunned, feeling a little curious. After all, this secret, Olmec said, could not be told to anyone. Otherwise, it may cause panic among the citizens. However, why Olmec would tell Yunfeng is something Midoriya Izuku can't figure out. Teacher, what are you going to do now? There are students all around outside. As long as I put away the wooden ball, you will definitely appear in their sight. Yunfeng said slowly. After Midoriya Izuku listened to Yunfeng's words, he was also a little anxious, looked in the direction of Olmec, and said anxiously. Yes, Olmec, staying in the ball all the time is too conspicuous, but once you go out you will definitely be seen by them again as you are now. Olmec pondered for a while and replied. Green Valley boy, you go out first, call the students, and assemble in front of the door. I still have something to say to the young man of Yunfeng. Quote. Midoriya Izuku froze for a moment, although he was a little curious in his heart, but he didn't say anything, replied, and walked out. After Midoriya Izuku left for a moment, Olmec slowly helped the wall to stand up. Is your condition similar to that of a boy? Facing Olmec's words, Yunfeng said with some doubts. What do you mean? The personality of the bomb boy is half cold and half burning, in other words, quite two personalities. And you should also have two personalities. I have read your information. 4-year-old awakening is a fiery personality, but it has never been very prominent. Until you came to the Shangying entrance test, your personality still said Spitfire, but during this period of time, the personality you basically used was related to the wood department. Hearing Olmec's words, Yunfeng did not feel that there was anything to hide. It was better to come out directly, and they had been investigating themselves. The teacher is right. Over the years, I have been hiding this wooden personality, in other words, quite two personalities. Yunfeng said softly. Olmec smiled slightly, he seemed to see the future on Yunfeng's body. Well, Yunfeng boy, I believe that in the near future, you will also be a symbol of peace. Olmec praised from the heart. Indeed, Yunfeng's current strength can be said to surpass some ordinary professional heroes. But the most important thing is not this, but Yunfeng is now just a student. The future is immeasurable. Yunfeng is not interested in the symbol of peace, he is now almost like eating and waiting for death. How so? One of the professional heroes said in a low voice. They were allowed to invade so brazenly, and I heard that the leader escaped. The female professional heroine on the side added. A burly man put down the headmaster who was carrying his shoulders. The principal then added, it's completely taken advantage of. But now it's more important to confirm the safety of the students. Quote. All the students have already gathered outside the face, except for Aizawa Shuda, who was seriously injured, the others are fine. However, I just heard a female student tell me that there is another one named Merlot Yunfeng who has not gone out yet. Already sent to look for it. Quote. Merlot Cloud Wind. The principal's eyes flickered. How do you know the headmaster? The female professional hero asked. I guess I know this person. The principal said calmly. It seems that to be remembered by the principal, he must naturally have his superiority. Female professional hero rode. His strength is very strong, there should be nothing wrong. The headmaster guessed. As soon as the principal's words fell, a professional hero came to the female professional hero. Found the student named Merlot Yunfeng, he was with Olmut and was not injured. When the principal heard this, he smiled slightly, I'll just say it. He is very strong and nothing will happen. Quote. Listening to the principal's words, the female professional heroes now want to see what kind of character this named Merlot Yunfeng is. You know, she has also been a teacher at Xiangying High School for many years, but she has never heard the principal praise others for being powerful. After a while, Olmut and Yunfeng came to the principal's side. And the female professional hero is looking at the cloud wind all over her body. However, no matter how the female professional hero thinks of Yunfeng, she is no different from other students. Is it really as the principal said, he is very strong? She didn't know about this, because he hadn't seen Yunfeng's battle. Olmut, are you all right? The principal asked softly. Well, it's okay, thanks to the Yunfeng boy behind to make a move, otherwise, things may be unimaginable. Olmut whispered back. It seems that Yunfeng has a lot of credit this time. The principal teased with a smile. The principal smiled. Compared to the professional heroes, I am far behind. Yunfeng chuckled and pandered. This forest is caused by your personality, right? The headmaster continued to ask. Yunfeng just wanted to speak, but a male professional hero standing next to the principal laughed. Principal, don't be ridiculing this student is embarrassed by you. As he spoke, the male professional hero smiled and said to Yunfeng. But since your personality is very similar to the hero dense forest Shenwei, as long as you persist, nothing is impossible, so come on. Speaking of the back, the male professional hero also involuntarily patted Yunfeng's shoulder. Yunfeng smiled faintly and said, the professional hero is right, as long as you persist and work hard, there is nothing impossible. Quote. Listening to Yunfeng's tone, Olmut on the side was stunned. Could it be that this forest was not made by his personality? Yunfeng Jr., what the hell is going on here? Olmut asked suspiciously. At this moment, the 8,000,000 outside the door saw Yunfeng and shouted towards Yunfeng. Yunfeng, hurry up and assemble. Come right away, Yunfeng replied. Immediately, he turned his gaze to Olmut's body and smiled slightly. Teacher, I will go out and gather. Quote. Before you go out, Yunfeng Jr., unravel your personality first, so that the other staff can do things well. Olmut said slowly. Although he heard what Yunfeng said just now, Olmut hesitated for a moment whether this forest was made by Yunfeng. However, tight as a few seconds. Yunfeng nodded. Okay, teacher. Quote. Immediately, he whispered silently, solution. Quote. The entire forest, suddenly, sizzled, turned into green points of light, and in an instant, returned to its original appearance. Then I'll go out and assemble first. Yunfeng smiled slightly, then turned around and quickly ran to the door. And at this moment, the other professional heroes on the side, as well as the man and the woman, the boss with wide eyes. How is this possible? Are the current students outrageously strong? The male professional hero said with a wink. It's incredible, since a student can unleash such a large number of moves, it seems that his personality is well developed. It's not a loss that the principal has praised the student continuously, it seems that he has this ability. The female professional hero said with a slight shock. This sentence is also what I want to say, this year's students are very strong. The principal laughed. I remember, I seem to have seen this move somewhere. The male professional hero continued to speak. You mean, the headlines that day? The female professional hero asked. Yes, that's it, I remember that dense forest Shenwei also used moves, and the scale was also very large. The male professional hero said. Olmut raised his eyebrows and said in a deep voice, that was actually released by the Yunfeng boy. Quote. The reason why the report wrote that the dense forest Shinwei was released is to let the Yunfeng boy move into these things. After all, he is just a student. Olmec is right. Yunfeng now needs us to guide him on the way forward. This road is very important, just like people have a period of rebellion. The headmaster said. This student is truly amazing. The male professional hero admired from the bottom of his heart. And at this time, the other side. In a dim bar, a purple whirlpool suddenly appeared, followed by a dead-handled wooden hanger that fell out of it. At this moment, his whole body was covered in scars, and the hand that was originally grasping the body was now only one left. He was now completely fainted, and there were many bones in his body, all of which were shattered by the cloud wind. Suddenly, on a screen, there was a voice. Did things turn out like this? Black Mist nodded, and then spoke. Yes, sir, the development of things is completely beyond our expectations. Quote, I still think too optimistically, underestimate them. But the group name that Shin lost is a cheap name like the Enemy Alliance, but then again, the work of the old man and the dead-handle wooden hanger has no brain. Didn't it come back? Quote, facing the greeting of the mysterious man on the screen, Black Mist pondered for a while and said in a deep voice. He was sent flying out. The mysterious man in the screen was stunned for a moment, and said in a somewhat surprised tone, what? Quote, if you can't grasp the accurate location coordinates, you can't find how Zai uses the teleportation ability. The mysterious man on the other side of the screen was angry, but the next moment, he continued. Not only that, but the dead-handled wooden hanger has also suffered a very serious injury, and now it must be sent for treatment as soon as possible. Black Mist said. Olmec hurt? The other side of the screen asked. Black Mist shook his head. No, it was a student of Xiangying who injured the wooden hanger. Quote, student, Black Mist, I am ashamed of you, even if you were injured by Olmec, since you were also seriously injured by a male student. Quote, forget it, no matter how annoyed it is, including this failure, it will never be in vain. Now, let's bring the dead-handled wooden sling here for treatment first. Black Mist nodded. Yes, sir. Quote, it's really nice to see you're okay. Are you concerned about me? Yunfeng looked at her and asked. 8 Million Bai was slightly disappointed when he saw Yunfeng's indifferent expression. With her hands on her waist, she put on an imposing posture and said, as a class leader, shouldn't I care about my classmates? Quote, Yunfeng froze for a moment and said with a smile, it should be. Quote, HMPH, 8 Million Bai snorted coldly, and then his tone was slightly softer, however, thank you, for blocking my face when it was dangerous. Quote, as a classmate, it should be. Cloud Wind Channel. However, it is not right for you to cheat the squad leader. 8 Million Hundred continued. Yunfeng was stunned and pondered. In his memory, it seemed that he had not been in contact with her like this. How did he cheat on her himself? What are you referring to? Yunfeng asked. It's the matter of the dense forest Shinwei. Since our first cooperation, I guessed that the large-scale forest in the headline was created by you. 8 Million said slowly. I thought, maybe you misunderstood something. I seem to remember that day that I didn't deny it. Yunfeng defended. 8 Million Hundred pondered for a while and muttered, it seems to be true. Quote, Yunfeng smiled lightly, did not continue to speak, instead, walked to the front and lined up. After lining up, the other teachers counted the number of people, and then safely transported Yunfeng back to Xiangying High School by bus. When I went back, it was not early, and after school, Yunfeng went home alone as usual. Through this battle, Yunfeng was also deeply aware of his own shortcomings. This incident gave Yunfeng quite a headache, so he decided to find a way to replace the physical strength. After returning home, a normal greeting, and then Yunfeng went to bathe. Tonight's moon is bright and bright, like a night lamp hanging in the sky, bringing a ray of light to the dark night. And just above the roof somewhere, a long sigh was pulled. Alas! Yunfeng sighed softly, then sat up, supported this chin with his hand, and stared blankly at the bright moon. Lord, are you okay, master? The wood elf asked worriedly. Yunfeng slowly turned his head, looked at the wood elf, and said weakly, look at me sighing, do you think I'm okay? Quote, did something happen to the master? Emperor Yan on the side asked suspiciously. Yes, master, if there is anything, just say it, we will give you an idea. The wood elf added. Ideas for me. Aha. Emperor Yan and the wood elf nodded. How can I quickly increase my physical strength? Yunfang asked. The wood elf and the Yan emperor glanced at each other, and the next moment, they shook their heads. Alas, forget it, I already knew it would be like this. Yunfeng said helplessly, and then jumped into the room from the window. The next day, in the morning, due to the enemy invasion during yesterday's training, the hero department of Xiangying High School decided to rest today. Yunfeng will definitely not be able to escape as soon as he rests, and he will go to help his mother's fate of buying vegetables. Therefore, Yunfeng's mother woke up Yunfeng early in the morning, saying that the dishes that he went to buy earlier would be fresh. He called Yunfeng to the market. After buying the dishes, Yunfeng sat on a bench in the park, and there were quite a lot of people in the park in the morning. Many older people are exercising. Not far from Yunfeng, several children were chasing and fighting, but after a while, they didn't know what had happened and argued. A few older children pushed to the youngest. Then he crossed his hands in front of his chest and said contemptuously, I said that your personality is not as strong as mine without my strength. Quote. The young child, sitting on the ground, began to look at these older children with moist eyes, but did not refute it. My father is a very strong hero. My father said that I will be stronger than him in the future. Among them, the yellow-haired man said with disdain. I will also become a very strong hero in the future. The youngest child, when he heard the word hero, suddenly became energetic. HMPH, you can't become a hero, your personality is waste. The yellow-haired child said sarcastically. Xiaolei is right, your personality is waste. It's funny that the waste still wants to be a hero. A group of children pointed to the child on the ground and laughed. Shut up, my personality is not waste. The youngest suddenly seemed to go crazy, roared loudly, and then grabbed the stone in the ground and threw it at the yellow-haired man. Snap! With a bang, the stone fell on the yellow-haired man's forehead, and his forehead began to turn red in an instant. The yellow-haired man touched his forehead, and the next moment his face became hideous, and he yelled at the underground child. You dare to lose me, I won't kill you. The yellow-haired man roared, raised his fist and hit the youngest child. The other children quickly shouted to the side. Auntie, it's not good, Xiaolei was beaten. Just because this group of children shouted, then a fat woman ran directly over. One pulled away the yellow-haired man, and without saying a word, he directly slapped the other child. I have to say that this slap was quite loud, and it directly slapped the youngest child on the ground. However, the youngest child is also powerful, since there is not a single drop in his eyes, his face is printed with red 5 fingers. He looked at the fat woman fiercely. Look at what, believe it or not, I'm slapping you, since the child who hit you. The fat woman said viciously. Mom, look at my forehead. The yellow-haired man pointed to his forehead with tears. When the fat woman saw it, she immediately became angry, raised her fist and continued to walk towards the child. The child took a few steps back in fear, but the result was obvious, and he was beaten. If it is not stopped by others, it is estimated that it will be beaten to the point of being inhuman. After the fat woman left, others asked about the child's injuries, but the child was nestled by the wall without saying a word. The others behind saw that the child was only injured and ignored it. Yunfeng picked up the food he had just bought, stood up, and approached the child. How, do you still want to be a hero? When the child heard the word hero, he slowly looked up at Yunfeng. I hate heroes, and I'm going to kill all heroes in the future. The child cried at this moment. Yunfeng froze for a moment, and his words also confirmed a truth, that is, the society did not treat him well since he was a child, and don't think that he would return to this society when he grew up. Even in the original world of Yunfeng, the childhood of most criminals is unbearable to look back on. It seems that your obsession with heroes is nothing more than that, and after a little torture, you have already given up. But also, if I were you, I might also be a hero killer. Yunfeng said calmly. The kid wiped the blood from the corners of his mouth and the tears in his eyes and said, if people like Xiaolei can become heroes, then this kind of hero is not rare for me. Little Ray, do you mean the one that taunts you? Yunfeng asked. The kid nodded, his eyes full of anger. As a weak person, you have this awareness, and the law of survival of the world is the law of the jungle, and you still have to understand this truth as soon as possible. Yunfeng smiled slightly, turned around with the things in his hand, and walked slowly in the direction of home. After the child pondered the meaning of Yunfeng's words for a while, he then staggered to Yunfeng's face. "You, what to do?" Quote. Yunfeng looked at the child in front of him suspiciously. The child bowed deeply towards Yunfeng and said in a deep voice, "Thank you, big brother, for waking up. I will definitely work hard to become a strong person." Quote. Yunfeng froze for a moment, and then said, "I didn't do anything." Quote. "Big brother has taught me a lot. If you want not to be looked at coldly, you must become stronger," the kid said with a handful of snot and tears. Yunfeng looked at the child speechlessly, and muttered, "What are you thinking about? Shouldn't you understand this as long as you can remember?" Quote. Hey. Since the kid touched the back of his head and laughed silly, Yunfeng looked confused. Are all children like this? One minute they are clamoring to destroy the sky and the earth, and the next second they want to protect their homes. Okay, while playing in the mud, I don't have time to talk nonsense to you. Yunfeng dropped a sentence and continued to step forward. The kid followed, and then asked, "Big brother, which hero do you admire the most?" Quote. "No one worships." Yunfeng continued to walk without looking at the child. The voice was silent for tens of seconds, and the child's voice sounded again. "Big brother, why don't you ask me which hero I admire the most?" This product clearly asked himself to ask him back. Not only that, but even what he wanted to answer, it is estimated that Yunfeng could guess. Undoubtedly, Olmet. Seeing Yunfeng's words, the kid naturally said to himself, "What I admire the most is the hero dense forest Shenwei. I really want to become as powerful as him." Quote. His words were somewhat unexpected by Yunfeng. "Isn't Olmet more powerful?" Yunfeng asked suspiciously. "Olmet is also a hero I admire, but the hero jungle Kamui is my longing goal, because my personality is similar to him," the child said softly. "Dense forest Kamui, is it the same as the whole body of wood?" Yunfeng asked. "How cool, sooner or later I will become as strong as him," the child said pompously. "How cool." Yunfeng twitched the corners of his mouth. The aesthetic of this world Yunfeng really didn't understand. However, at this moment, Yunfeng was a little lucky. Shinhao himself had the ability to Mu on, but his appearance did not change. "Okay, then you slowly become stronger," Yunfeng said and continued to walk forward. This time, the child did not catch up, and shouted towards Yunfeng's back, "One day I will be more powerful than the dense forest divine power, and his ability is the ability to stretch like a tree." Quote. "And I not only want to be like him, but also use the ability of the outside world to control all the trees for my use." Outside. When Yunfeng heard these two words, his heart suddenly touched, and the whole person suddenly realized. Yes, that's right. Outside. Trees need to be nourished by nature to thrive. Quote. "Maybe I can absorb the power of nature and turn it into my own strength, so as to make up for the lack of physical strength," Yunfeng muttered. Immediately, he quickened his pace and rushed towards his home. After bringing the food home, Yunfeng hurried towards a forest. In this forest, there are basically no people, and Yunfeng sits on a rock, sitting cross-kneeled. At this moment, he wants to try, to see if he can compare himself to a tree, to see if he can absorb the power of nature. Time passed by minute, and Yunfeng had been sitting on the rock for almost several hours. The next moment, he suddenly opened his eyes sharply, looking shocked. Because in the first few seconds, he could feel that he really condensed a little bit of nature's power. Really? Yunfeng stood up ecstatically. Although there were not many natural forces condensed for the first time, Yunfeng was not concerned about this. Rather, the method he thought could be implemented. It seems that a way has finally been found to make up for the lack of physical fitness. The corners of Yunfeng's mouth rose slightly. The next moment, he sat cross-kneeled on the rock, once again condensing the power of nature. The only thing that falls short now is that it takes too much time to gather the forces of nature. He has to be in control of a minute or so. If it takes too long, even if the forces of nature are condensed, it will not be used. Yunfeng successfully condensed the power of nature for the second time, and this time it took more than half an hour less than the last time. Moisture. At this time, the mobile phone in Yunfeng's pocket vibrated a few times, and he reached out to take it out, but found that it was already past 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And missed more than 30 calls. It was all from his mother. Let's call home, or they will come to me if they are worried. He muttered, then clicked a few times on the screen. So he called his mother, saying that he was finished at a friend's house and would return later. After the explanation, Yunfeng continued to condense. The third time, another half an hour faster than the last, it was clear that the progress was still great. At this time, the sky had also darkened, the forest could not see 5 fingers, and there was a clear moonlight on the top, and it was barely able to see the direction. At night, Yunfeng sat on the bed and condensed the power of nature again, but it took much longer to condense in the house than the forest. Yunfeng slowly opened his eyes and muttered, "It seems that condensing the power of nature is also affected by the environment." Quote. Looking at the time, it was already more than 2 o'clock in the morning, and Yunfeng had to give up and lie down and rest. Early the next morning, Yunfeng dragged his tired body to the hero department of Shangying High School. As he walked through an alley, a hand suddenly rested on Yunfeng's shoulder. Yunfeng subconsciously turned around, and at this moment, a yellow-haired man appeared in his line of sight. His name is Ninto Monoma, he is a first-year B-class student, personality, copy. After touching someone, he can use the other person's personality at will for 5 minutes, but at the same time can only use one personality. Who are you? Yunfeng subconscious student. Ningren smiled slightly and introduced himself. Hello, classmate of Class A, I am from Class B. Quote. Yunfeng looked at him with a disdainful expression, then turned around and ignored it, and continued to walk forward. Izuma Ningren chased after him and continued. I heard that when you were training the day before yesterday, you encountered danger, and I wondered, why didn't we encounter it during training? Quote. The limelight is really occupied by all of your class, but also, who calls you Class A? Is it useless to find my head teacher and beat me blindly? Understand. Yunfeng yawned and continued to step forward, not looking back at him at all. Classmate, are you really short-tempered? Monoma Ninto said with a smile. Yunfeng stopped his steps, then turned back and said coldly, Go farther, your grinning look, I am uncomfortable when I see it. If you are chattering, I dare not guarantee that you will still be standing in the next second. Quote. With that, Yunfeng turned around and continued to walk forward. And the people of Wumaning also saw Yunfeng's appearance and did not continue to catch up. Looking at Yunfeng's back, Ningren's face gradually became gloomy. What the hell is going on with this kid? Could it be, is he a man without character? Quote. However, it is impossible. How can a person without personality enter Shangying High School? Is it his personality I can't replicate? Quote. In an instant, the people of Ningren were confused. At this time, Class 1A. Nah, did you read yesterday's news? The students in the class seem to be photogenic for a moment, right? It feels like I'm so inconspicuous. Yi Yintu said with slight disappointment. Really, the classmate next to her mended the knife. However, every channel attaches great importance to this event. Shengming Electric Road. Of course, after all, the hero section of Professional Heroes has been attacked. Hibika added. If the teachers hadn't arrived in time at that time, I really don't know what would have happened. As soon as one of the classmates spoke, Minoru Minda immediately jumped up from his seat. Shouted, Hurry up, just thinking about me will be scared to pee. Quote. Bakugao Katsuji, who was sitting in front of him, had a green forehead and an erection, and yelled at Minoru Minda, Noisy, shut up for me, trash. Quote. But the others did not take the words of the explosive hero victory at all seriously, and continued to discuss. The front is really terrifying, a good training ground, suddenly turned into a forest. Is it the enemy's doing or is it the cloud wind? Quote. As soon as Bakugao Shangji and Boon Zhao heard the words Yunfeng, they also became interested in advance and listened carefully to their conversation. It's cloud dried, Erlang Shangshang replied. When everyone heard this, they all exclaimed. The heart of personality development is really strong, since it has turned a training ground into a forest. What envy, I hope it can be as powerful as Yunfeng. Quote. Many students' eyes flashed with envy, hoping to become as powerful as Yunfeng. However, it is clear that they will never be able to keep up with the pace of Yunfeng. Click. Just as they were talking, Yunfeng opened the door of the classroom. Originally, everyone wanted to ask Yunfeng a lot of questions, but unexpectedly, the next moment Aizawa Muda said behind Yunfeng wrapped in bandages. What time is it? Don't hurry into the classroom yet. Yunfeng turned around and was startled to see Aizawa's bandage all over his body, and he had to say that it was the first time he had seen such a dedicated teacher. Yunfeng returned to his seat, and Aizawa limped to the podium and said casually, "Good morning." Quote, "Sensei Aizawa, recovery is so fast. Too, so dedicated." Quote, "Teacher, it's great that you're okay. Does this look like it's all right?" Yunfeng couldn't help but complain. Aizawa glanced at all the classmates, and then said in a low voice, "It doesn't matter if I'm safe or not, the important thing is that the battle is not over yet." Quote, "The battle is not over yet. Could it be another enemy invasion?" Quote, Aizawa explained, "It's not, but the UA Sports Festival is coming." Quote, "Sports festivals." Everyone listened to what Aizawa said, and subconsciously followed along. "We have just been invaded by the enemy, is it really okay to suddenly have a sports festival or something?" Hibika asked worriedly. "Yes, if you get attacked again." The other classmate's face was also slightly worried. "It seems that the school wants to show the outside world how indestructible the management system is by holding a sports festival to show the outside world how indestructible the management system is. I heard that this time the security force will also be strengthened to 5 times that of previous years. And, most importantly, the sports festival of Xiangying is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity." Quote, "How is it possible to stop it just because you go to fetch the enemy?" Aizawa said too slowly. At this moment, Minoru Minda panicked when he heard that a sports festival was going to be held, and cold sweat began to break out on his face. The last enemy invasion can be said to have left a lot of shadows on him. Looking at Minoru Minda's expression, Yunfeng was a little puzzled. How did this guy enter the A class of the hero department? Aizawa looked at them and talked about it, and then said, "Okay, today's class meeting, this is the end." Quote, the day passed quickly, and in the blink of an eye, it was time for school. But at this moment, the door of the classroom was crowded with people, all of them students from different subjects. They obviously came here to see what kind of characters are rumored to be in Class A. And the people of Class A also began to talk about it when they saw this scene, and they were still in that violent temper and picked up their school bags. When the group of people at the door were in a tone and walked towards the door. "Get in my way, get out of the way, dragons." Bakugao Shungji's face changed, and he said in a deep voice, "The people in Class A are really dragged. Are all the students of the hero department such goods? It's really disappointing to see such a guy." As the words fell, a man with purple hair standing on end, with a lazy appearance, squeezed in front from behind the crowd. The right hand is in the trouser pocket, and the left hand is wrapped around the back of the head, a self-righteous look. "What did you say?" When Bakugao Shungji heard this, his temper immediately came. The purple-haired man continued expressionlessly, "There are many people in this school who have been assigned to the general subject and the other 2 subjects because they have not been admitted to the hero subject, do you know?" Quote, "And the school has also left an opportunity for us like this, and it is said that it will reconsider whether to put us in the hero department based on our performance at the sports festival, and if there is in, there will be out." "Who are you, kid?" Running to the door of the classroom and shouting something, a small supporting role. Bakugao shouted at the purple-haired man with a hideous face. The purple-haired man instructed disdainfully, "Don't get too carried away, be careful of being overturned by us in an instant." Quote, when the purple-haired man's voice just fell, the next moment, the air seemed to solidify, the surroundings instantly became quiet, and the atmosphere was strange. Chapter 36. At this moment, a loud roar broke this strange atmosphere. An ugly-looking man, clenching his fist in his hand, jumped up and shouted, "I'm from Class B next door." Quote, Bakugao Katsuji frowned, and also yelled back at the ugly-looking man, "I'll take care of your shifts. I heard that you fought with the enemy, so I plan to come and ask 2 questions. But you kid seems to have dragged him to the sky. Now that the words are so full, be careful of being punched in the face in the official competition." The ugly-looking man continued to shout, "Shut up for me, smelly boy, watch out I slaughter you." The green tendons on Bakugao Shungji's forehead suddenly erected, and he may go over at any time. "Our Class B is not as good a bully as you think." The ugly-looking man continued to roar. At this time, in his heart, he was thinking of giving Class AA dismount and poking their sharp energy. A weird smile leaked from Bakugao Shungji's face, and he said with a smile, or let's have a discussion. Quote. Izuku Midoriya next to him heard Bakugai Katsuki say that he was going to fight, and immediately stepped forward to stop it. Xiao Shang, no private fights are allowed in the school. Oh, Bakugai Katsuji glared at Midoriya Izuku, who suddenly took a few steps back in fear. Cut. Bakugao Katsuji glanced at Midoriya Izuku with disdain. Okay, we don't fight, just talk, let me understand, where is the gap between Class A and Class B? The ugly-looking man replied. I advise you not to do this, but brawls are prohibited in school. At this time, 8,000,000 gave a word of advice. Bakugao Katsuji frowned. Although he was very unwilling in his heart, he wanted to go over and get that ugly-looking man. But what 8,000,000 said is not without reason, fighting in school, if serious, but to suspend school. With this temper of his own, it must end badly. Bakugao Katsuki stopped talking, squeezed out the crowd and left. And the ugly-looking man shouted from the side, why, aren't you coming? Quote. However, Bakugao Katsuki paid no attention to him in the slightest. Yunfeng originally wanted to see the play, but now it seems that the play is out of sight. He looked at the time, it was not early, picked up his bag and walked towards the door. Squeezed out the crowd, he did not go home immediately, but walked in the direction of the head teacher's office. Seeing Yunfeng leaving, 8,000,000 also hurriedly went back and picked up his school bag and quickly squeezed out. However, on the way, she did not see the sound of the cloud wind. This guy runs so fast. 8,000,000 sighed. On the other side, Yunfeng reached out and slowly knocked on the office door. Who? Aizawa asked weakly. It's me, Yunfeng. Yunfeng said calmly. The door is unlocked, come in. Yunfeng immediately turned on, and the light outside shone in, and Yunfeng scanned the office, but did not see Aizawa's figure. What's the matter with me? Suddenly, directly, under the table, came a deep voice. Yunfeng subconsciously looked over, and at this moment, Aizawa was lying in a yellow sleeping bag when he heard Yunfeng come in. He twisted and turned his face in the direction of Yunfeng. I'm going to take time off. Yunfeng spoke. Take time off. A trace of doubt flashed in Aizawa's eyes, and he said in the next second, yes. Quote. I'm going to take a leave of absence until the day of the sports festival. Yunfeng continued. Aizawa was stunned. Originally he thought that Yunfeng was going to take a day off, but he didn't expect that this product directly said that he would take a leave to ask for the day of the sports festival. You know, there is still more than half a month before the day of the sports festival. What are you kid doing for so many days? Aizawa said as he picked up his sleeping bag. Immediately unzipped and the whole person walked out, looking at Yunfeng with a puzzled face. Sorry, I can't tell you. Yunfeng said calmly. If you don't tell me, I can't give you a day off. Aizawa Mitamaiki. Teacher, I just came to tell you that I want to take leave, as for whether you give it or not, it doesn't matter. Yunfeng said slowly. You brat, forget it, I won't ask the reason for your leave, but I have a condition that you must come back on the day of the sports festival. Quote. If you can, I will allow it, if not, then unfortunately, I can't give you leave. Aizawa said with a frown. Don't worry, on the day of the sports festival, I promise to come back. Yunfeng chuckled. By the way, one more thing is, be careful, danger is everywhere. Aizawa instructed. Yunfeng nodded and said, I know, teacher. Quote. Yunfeng's reason for taking leave was simple, that is, to concentrate on cultivating natural power. Because the training of Shangying High School was of no use to him at all. For Yunfeng's leave, his mother was very opposed at first, but at Yunfeng's insistence, he finally compromised. For the rest of the day, Yunfeng spent most of his days in the forest. As time passed, Yunfeng comprehended and became more aware of the forces of nature. However, the only thing that Yunfeng didn't know was that the natural force he comprehended was very similar to the natural force in the Hokage world. Once there are enough natural forces condensed, then Yunfeng's body will also undergo some changes, called the natural body, which can also be called the immortal mode. In the Hokage, after entering the immortal mode between the 1,000-hand pillars, you can use more powerful wooden abilities. Here, it's basically the same, as long as Yunfeng enters the immortal mode. In this state, natural energy can be used to greatly increase physical activity to increase attack power and defense, and natural energy can be used to increase physical attack range and perception. You can also use moves that require a lot of physical strength to perform. In the blink of an eye, there was only one day before the opening of the sports festival. At noon, the hot sun roasts the earth. Yunfeng was sitting cross-kneeled on the rock at the moment, and because of the past half a month or so, he practiced here every day. The rock has been smoothed out. There was no noise around, just the call of cicadas and birds. Yunfeng had just closed his eyes for a few minutes, and there was a big change around his eyes. It's like applying eyeshadow, and there are red stripes around the eyes. Ah! Yunfeng opened his eyes abruptly, and then a hint of helplessness appeared on his face. Really? There is still no progress, but this is the limit. Quote. This time, Yunfeng turned into immortal mode for 4 minutes, and a few days ago, his record was 4 minutes. But after a few days, it's still no more, no less, just 4 minutes, but that's a big improvement. At the beginning, it took 4 or 5 hours to condense a little bit of natural power, and he had not yet entered the immortal mode. If you want to enter the immortal mode, you must condense for at least a few days. Until now, basically as soon as he condensed, he could condense the natural power, but when he entered the immortal mode, it took 4 minutes. Yunfeng slowly stood up and sighed softly. So far it can only be like this. He slowly got up and moved his muscles. At this moment, the cell phone in his pocket rang. Yunfeng took out his mobile phone, but found that it was a number that had no impression. He didn't think so much about it and connected it directly. Hey, it's me, Aizawa Takeda. The other side of the phone replied. Teacher, are you looking for me? Yunfeng asked curiously. It's okay. I called here to remind you not to come to school tomorrow, otherwise I will kill you. Aizawa Muda still said weakly. Okay, I see. Yunfeng nodded. Okay, that's it, I still have to train this group of guys, let's not talk. Aizawa said in a hurry, and hung up the phone. Yunfeng pressed the phone back and put it back in his pocket, and he didn't plan to continue practicing for the rest of the day. Get ready for good entertainment. In other words, aren't you tired of standing for so long? Suddenly, Yunfeng shouted at a huge tree. Discovered. With a soft voice fell. A woman wearing a pale yellow blouse and a short black skirt slowly walked out from behind the tree. The woman looks as if she is about the size of Yunfeng, her long golden hair is coiled into 2 balls, and her facial features are very delicate, like a carving. She looks very cute, and she just crosses my body. When she saw Yunfeng, she leaked a smile, and 2 tiger teeth appeared in Yunfeng's sight. You found out, you seem to be funny. The corners of my mouth were raised and I smiled. You've been watching me from behind a tree for days? Yunfeng asked. I was stunned, and his smile became even brighter. How do you know? Quote. The other day, when I was observed behind a tree for the first time, Yunfeng already knew. Because, since turning into immortal mode, Yunfeng's perception ability is much stronger. The reason why she didn't say it was that Yunfeng just wanted to see what she wanted to make. It doesn't matter how I know, what matters is, what are you doing sneaky? Yunfeng asked. I'm curious, crossing me was covered by the way. Curious, Yunfeng frowned, slightly puzzled, curious about what? Quote. I walked forward slowly with a smile on my face, and said, you are strange, this is the first time I have seen someone sit on a rock for so long. Quote. The corner of Yunfeng's mouth drew a lone line and sneered, if my behavior is strange, your behavior is even more strange. Quote. What do you say? Wataru asked. You say I've been sitting strange for a long time. Isn't it strange that you've been watching me from behind? Yunfeng said calmly. Strange, don't you think? Wataru was leaned over and a smile began to bloom on his face. I don't know why, although in Yunfeng's eyes, looking at the woman in front of him is quite cute. But her smile made people stand up, and if she had just crossed over, Yunfeng was still a little worried. But now, he was just on guard and not worried. Coupled with his ability to create regeneration, there is no need to worry. With Yunfeng's current strength, ordinary professional heroes cannot hurt him. I really want to know, what are you sitting here doing every day? Wataru said as he leaned over, and took a few more steps forward, his eyes sharper than before. If you are thinking something bad right now, I advise you to give up. Yunfeng said expressionlessly. Let me be your friend. I laughed as I was overwhelmed. Looking at Du, I was completely not in accordance with the normal conversation. Yunfeng couldn't help frowning. He was very puzzled. Where did this woman run from? I'm not interested, you find someone else. Yunfeng said, then turned around and wanted to leave here. Du was sharply pulled out a small knife at his waist, and ran directly towards Yunfeng with a step. For Yunfeng, who is still in immortal mode, it is simply easier to dodge this blow than to step on an ant underground. I saw that his figure changed, and he easily dodged the attack of Dumi's body. The empty Wataru was overwhelmed, quickly turned around, and leaked a bloodthirsty expression towards Yunfeng. Are you great? The strength gap is too big, do you think you can hurt me? Yunfeng said in a deep voice. Indeed, she finally showed a more normal expression, and the next moment, she added, goodbye, I don't want to be killed yet. Quote. Originally, she just wanted to open a few holes in Yunfeng's body, but when she launched her first attack, she already knew that the difference in strength was too big. If she is persistent, it is estimated that she will not open a few holes in Yunfeng, but will be killed by Yunfeng. Seeing that I was quickly rushed by my body, Yunfeng froze, and then a smile leaked out of his mouth. Forget it, someone can just test it for me, absorb the power of nature, and the foundation is much higher than the original. Saying that, Yunfeng directly chased after him, and in a few seconds, he had already run in front of the body that crossed me. Aren't you going to be friends? What are you doing running so fast? Yunfeng chuckled. When I saw the cloud wind that suddenly appeared in front of me, I was immediately startled and quickly stopped my steps. Why are you here? There was no smile on my face. This is not important, the important thing is that I want to be friends with you. Yunfeng said playfully, and the words of being friends in the back were obviously much louder than the front. For the first time, she felt that the 3 words of being friends were terrible. She frowned, quickly turned around, and ran back. But the next moment, she saw the cloud wind appear in front of her again. Today, you can't run without my permission, Yunfeng said calmly. This way, Wataru's face became gloomy, and then he continued, it seems that I can only pierce you. Quote. Oh, so I got it, Yunfeng said with a smile. Saying that, I was swung by the body and swung the knife in my hand, and directly rushed towards Yunfeng. However, in Yunfeng's eyes, her movements were like slow motion. The cold glow of the knife flashed, straight to Yunfeng's neck, and the next moment, Yunfeng's 2 fingers clamped the knife in his hand. Such a simple attack, don't you have a personality? Or do you think you don't need personality to deal with me? Quote. In the face of Yunfeng, Du was blackened, and you think that she is underestimating Yunfeng, then it is very wrong. If she could use her personality at the moment, of course, she would like to use her personality, but her personality is personality. Transform, take the blood of the other party and drink it, and she can transform into the appearance of the blood owner. The time of transformation is proportional to the amount of intake, and the amount of a cup of blood can last about a day. This personality is of no use to combat at all. Seeing Yunfeng's 2 fingers, he followed his own blow, and I was startled by my body, and subconsciously pulled the knife back. However, the knife seemed to be fixed by something, and no matter how hard she tried, she could not pull out the knife. I said, the difference in strength is too big, and your attack will not have any effect on me, Yunfeng said in a deep voice. The next moment, only a click was heard, and the blade of the knife was directly screwed off by Yunfeng's 2 fingers. I was quickly caught by the body, jumped backwards, and jumped out of the distance. With her eyes staring at Yunfeng, she was very afraid, and if she didn't pay attention, Yunfeng attacked him. Yunfeng looked at the body of Du playfully, smiled slightly, and the next second directly turned into an afterimage and went directly. At the moment when Du was blinked, her eyes were dark, and the cloud wind came directly to her. So fast, beads of sweat appeared on my face. Ah! Yunfeng kicked directly over, and I was quickly blocked by Yunfeng's kick with my own hands. It's so heavy. I was flown straight to the side. After she had stabilized, she slowly stood up. This was the first time she had encountered this situation, and her face showed unease. But at this moment, an impatient expression also appeared on Yunfeng's face. He originally wanted to try the power of the immortal mode, but he didn't expect that the woman in front of him was too weak. You can't test your strength at all. It's so boring. Don't you have a personality? Yunfeng asked in a deep voice. I quickly nodded as she felt it was the only straw she felt could save. Yunfeng leaked a disappointed expression, and he didn't think much about it, because only 80% of people with personality in this world are here, and the chance of encountering someone without personality is still quite large. It seems that it is impossible to try the immortal mode on her. Okay, you can roll, give you a minute, disappear from my sight, or I'll kill you. Yunfeng said slowly. After hearing Yunfeng's words, I was directly turned around and ran wildly without saying a word. Of course, Yunfeng said this just to scare her, and for people without personality, he was too lazy to kill. I'm back, Yunfeng shouted, then opened the door and changed into slippers. Seriously, I've been in this world for a while, and the greetings here are still a little unaccustomed. It's to call me back after going home, to say that I have to eat, and I started, but fortunately, it's all small things. The little wind is back. Yunfeng's mother heard Yunfeng's voice and ran out of the living room. Yunfeng nodded. Your teacher called me and told me that I must go to school tomorrow, you know. His mother said solemnly. I know, he's already called me. Do well tomorrow. After all, it is a good opportunity to increase your popularity. For popularity, Yunfeng is not very interested. After all, the popularity is high, sometimes, but it will be very troublesome. Yunfeng flickered. I will work hard. Quote, Zhaofeng, what the hell are you doing on this half-month leave? His mother continued to ask. Mom, just rest assured, I'm not doing bad things anyway. Yunfeng said and walked towards his room. His mother pouted and muttered, this child is getting more and more strange. I used to have a lot to say with my mother, but now I am always alone. Quote, click. Yunfeng casually locked them back, followed closely, and a familiar voice came out. Welcome back from the host. Master, why did you come back so early today? At this time, the Yan Emperor and the Wood Spirit were released from their bodies by Yunfeng. Master and cultivation are complete. Emperor Yan added. Congratulations to the host. Congratulations to the host. Quote, it's barely a good cultivation, but I still feel that there is still a chance to break through for 4 minutes. Yunfeng said and sat down on the chair. Master, when can the two of us follow you? Staying in your body is too boring. Wood Elf Q&A. Yes, when will we be released to play together? Yandy added. The time has not yet come. When the time comes, I will let the world remember you. Yunfeng said in a deep voice. The next day, early in the morning, Yunfeng went to Shangying High School alone as usual, and he didn't take this road for about half a month, and a lot of changes occurred. Before coming to Shangying High School, in the middle of the air, fireworks burst out in the middle of the air. Outside Shangying High School, there are reporters who are going through security checks one by one. Admission security is too cumbersome. A female reporter in line looked at the long line in front of her and couldn't help but complain. There is no way around this. After all, it was attacked by the enemy not long ago. Strict inspections are also for the safety of students. Quote, and this year, there are even people who are critical of the sports festival held by the school. A male reporter at the back of the line explained. Ideographic period. After listening to it, the female reporter immediately became excited, and the corners of her mouth turned up, and said, causing heated discussion is equal to increasing ratings. This year's focus is indeed Class A. Quote, I heard there is Andwa's son in the first grade this year. The male reporter said with a smile. The female reporter was even more excited, and said, no, it's really fake, it seems that the ratings this time are absolutely hot. Quote, Yunfeng didn't know much about sports festivals, but I heard them say that the sports festival at Shangying High School is one of the large-scale events in the country. In the past, the Olympics were called sports extravaganza, which drove the whole country crazy. And now it is well known that its size and participation are shrinking and it has died out in name only. Now sports festivals have replaced the original Olympic status. Yunfeng looked at the dense crowd of people, and couldn't help frowning, and he was on the way to the school gate. Now the surrounding area is full of all kinds of stalls to buy and sell. Just after Yunfeng walked several steps, suddenly, a voice stopped him again. Merlot Cloud Wind. Yunfeng subconsciously heard the prestige, and not far from him, stood the dense forest divine power, the mountain woman. When he saw the mountain woman, Yunfeng was obviously shocked, and remembered that when he first saw her, she turned into a giant at that time. Now it has changed back to the normal size of a human, and its posture has gone up a few notches. She was now holding takoyaki, and when she saw the dense forest Shinwei shouting towards Yunfeng, she also shouted along with her. After a while, Yunfeng walked in front of them. What a coincidence, I met you here again. Dense forest Kamui said. Looking at the appearance of the dense forest divine power, in Yunfeng's eyes, he is estimated to be the most pitiful one, although he has the power of trees. But at the same time, his body also became trees. Yunfeng nodded politely and said, yes, what a coincidence. Quote, come on, Junior. The mountain woman smiled slightly. Junior, did you graduate here? Yunfeng asked curiously. The mountain woman leaked a smug expression and said, of course, I think back then, senior sister, I was very powerful, so you have to cheer up, junior brother. Quote. Yunfeng nodded and chuckled, well, I will. Quote, I'm looking forward to your performance. Dense forest Shinwei Dao. Senior sister is also looking forward to it. The mountain heroine smiled charmingly, inserted a takoyaki with a bamboo skewer, and put it in her mouth. The next moment, she inserted another takoyaki with a bamboo skewer and handed it in the direction of Yunfeng, saying, junior brother wants one, this takoyaki is very delicious. Quote. Yunfeng shook his head and said, no need, thank you senior sister for your kindness. Quote. And at the moment, the lounge of 1A. Click. Of a sound. Aizawa instantly pushed open the door, then walked in, and quickly scanned everyone inside. Teacher. The students inside looked at Aizawa with a puzzled expression. I saw Aizawa frowned, quickly took out his mobile phone in his pocket, and scolded while scolding, Yunfeng, this smelly boy, I was telling him yesterday, I won't forget it again. Quote. Saying that, he quickly clicked the screen, found Yunfeng's number, and dialed it. Soon, it was connected. Stinky boy, where are you? Aizawa asked. Me, at the school gate, Yunfeng replied. Come in quickly, remember to change into sportswear, and hurry over to the lounge. Aizawa said with a green erection. Okay, Yunfeng replied, and the next moment, he hung up the phone. Toot toot toot. Aizawa Wanda listened to the voice, and the corners of his mouth still trembled. This kid is really a lamp that doesn't save fuel. Quote. Teacher, Cloud Wind is back. 8,000,000 stood up and asked Aizawa Yuta. Aizawa quickly regained his previous unhurried expression and said, yes, that stinky boy is back. Quote. Immediately after, many people had a hint of joy on their faces. That's nice. 8,000,000 sat down and smiled slightly. This time I must crush this fool. The corners of Bakugao Shungji's mouth hooked, and his eyes flashed with excitement. And the outside of the scorched froze is calmer, but the inside is still very excited. After Yunfeng changed into his sportswear, he walked towards the lounge of 1A. Yunfeng, they said subconsciously. Yunfeng smiled lightly, found a position and sat down. Classmate Yunfeng, where have you been in the past half a month? Shangming Electric asked on the side. Yes, if it hadn't been for Aizawa-sensei telling us that you had taken a leave of absence, we would have thought you were expelled. Take a leave of absence and go sightseeing. Yunfeng replied with a smile. Sightseeing. When everyone heard this, they couldn't help but stunned. Your heart is really big, the sports festival is coming, since you are still in the mood to go sightseeing. Yes, it is estimated that we will practice for one more year than Yunfeng, and we will not be able to catch up with his footsteps. Tenya Iida added. Cut. Bakugao Shungji glanced at Yunfeng with disdain. But then again, I don't quite understand what a sports festival is. Yunfeng asked. Everyone looked at Yunfeng suspiciously. Yunfeng shook his head. At the moment, the arena. He cheered loudly. Hey, wait and see. Audience. Quote. Tread. Inside a tunnel, there were bursts of footsteps. The next moment, all the students of Class 1A walked to the arena, and the cheers of the audience sounded at the next time. When Yunfeng saw the crowded audience, he couldn't help but be surprised. It seems that it is really a very powerful sports meeting. The next class, although slightly less popular, also gathered a group of powerful people. They are the hero section, Class B in 1 year. Quote. followed by the general subject, CDE class. After all, Shangying High School does not only have a hero department. In addition to the hero department, there are also support departments, management departments, and so on. At midnight, the professional hero walked to the stage, casually flicked the leather whip in his hand, and shouted, "The player swears." Quote. Basically all the male audience began to get excited when they saw the professional hero Midnight. Wow, is this year's first grade referee 18 Forbidden Heroes Midnight? Quote. What about the headmaster? One of them asked. The principal, as in previous years, is in charge of the third grade division. However, it is not unreasonable that the midnight appearance can cause so many audience members to exclaim. She is wearing tights, coupled with her hot figure and enchanting figure, it is difficult not to cheer. Midnight teacher, what kind of costume is that? One of the students blushed slightly and muttered. Worthy of being an 18 Forbidden hero. As a 18 Forbidden person, is it really okay to be a teacher in high school? At this moment, Mineta Shi showed a super excited expression, looked at Midnight and gave a thumbs up, like. Quote. Silence, Midnight shouted, and then continued. The contestant came to speak on behalf of the explosive hero of Class 1A. Quote. After the Midnight voice fell, everyone's eyes were cast towards Bakugao Katsuki. Bakugao Shungji was expressionless, put his hands in his trouser pockets, and walked onto the stage with a hanging appearance, facing the microphone, and then his eyes fell on Yunfang's body. And at this moment, the audience also fell silent, carefully wanting to hear what Bakugao Shungji had to say. As soon as Bakugao's words came out, all the classes in the field almost erected at the same time. Class 1A, I knew that Bakugao would definitely come to this set. Quote. What did you say? What are you kidding? You're a sludge. How confident this kid is, I must abolish him with my own hands. In the face of attacks from various languages, Bakugao wins himself like he has nothing to do. Tenya Iida hurriedly asked, Bakugao-san, why do you make such contemptuous remarks about everyone? Quote. Bakugao Shungji turned around and said in a deep voice, you guys try to play a comfortable stepping stone for me. Quote. While speaking, he couldn't help but give a thumbs up, and then flipped a punch, thumb down. Then, as if nothing had happened, he walked back to the group. Okay, then let's get started. Every year, a large number of students leave this link. Well, the first project that determines the fate is, Midnight roared loudly. As he spoke, a screen projection appeared behind Midnight. The screen inside is a spinning wheel similar to a slot machine, and the spinning wheel is turning faster and faster. The next moment, a direct ding. The obstacle course appeared directly on the big screen. This year, the first project was it. All students from 11 classes will participate in this race. Quote. The course goes around the outside of the stadium and is about 4 kilometers long. Our school has always been selling freedom, as long as it is on the track, no matter what means. Midnight explained. Once again, the audience cheered. Okay, each in place. After listening to the Midnight password, everyone faced the door, and the 3 lights in front of the door slowly began to go out. When the last light went out, the door suddenly opened, and Midnight followed with a shout. Begin. Tread. Everyone flocked towards the door, passing through a tunnel that was not large, and it turned out that it was all stuck inside. This scene is very spectacular. The people in the tunnel, you push me and I push you. These people, dead. Yun Feng was still standing at the starting point, looking at their crowding appearance, and complained. Inside the tunnel, suddenly, a cold breath of white flowers covered the entire tunnel, freezing rapidly along the outer wall. Boom. Of a sound. A large cold air erupted directly from the mouth of the tunnel. Immediately after, Bang Jiao quickly ran out alone, and the ground he passed was covered with a layer of cold ice. Sorry. Boom Frost muttered, and the students behind the scorched freeze basically froze their legs with cold ice. It hurts, what is it? It's so cold. The next moment, many people bloomed their personalities to escape the cold ice, and chased after them towards the scorched pace. Immediately after, in tens of seconds or so, the tunnel was empty. Okay, it's time. Yunfang smiled slightly, and ran forward with a step. When passing by the cold ice ground, the cloud wind directly crushed the cold ice. It can be said that it has no effect at all. And at this moment, on the commentary platform, Aizawa Yuta witnessed everything that had just happened, and then his face turned black. Alas, I forgot to tell Yunfeng that this guy ran with all his strength. This kid looks like he is indisputable. If he is eliminated in the first round, I have to teach him a good lesson. Aizawa muttered. Because some people walk on the cold ground, they move very slowly, and after a while, they surpass many people. What's going on with this guy? My day, directly trampled the ice on the ground. How heavy does that have to be? Quote. I know this kid, it's from Class A. Could it be that his personality is gravity-related? Many people watched Yunfeng's actions and began to talk about it. When Yunfeng ran for a while, he found that many people in front of him had stopped, and when he looked up, it turned out that a huge green robot was blocking their way. Moisture. The red light on the robot's head flashed, and said, Target, substantial. Quote. And these robots are all imaginary enemies with 0 points in the entrance test. Many people face these robots with headaches. He was the first to attack these robots, using the half-cold personality of half of his body to directly freeze the ground. It's a rare opportunity. I really hope you can prepare some more powerful obstacles. Directly he waved his right hand, and the robot in front of him froze in an instant. Phew. The next moment, he directly breathed out a cold breath. Immediately after that, he quickly ran forward. That guy froze them, can go between their legs, and go. Boon Zhao turned around and instructed. Advise you not to do that, I froze when their feet were unstable, and I will fall. Quote. Sure enough, the next moment, the entire robot fell directly to the ground. These robots have no effect on Yunfeng, and their agile bodies easily dodge the obstacles of these robots. Quickly went from last place to second place. How is it possible to give you two a soak in front of me? Bakugai Katsuki roared, using his explosive personality to walk in the air. Chased after the cloud wind and the scorching freeze, and many people behind also used their personalities to quickly clear the level. You two don't want to run in front of me. Bakugai shouted loudly. And at this time, the other side of the building is inside. Among the leading echelons, there are indeed many of them from Class A. A man dressed like a cowboy said calmly. Olmut, who was sitting on the side, pondered for a while, and then added, other subjects and B students are not bad. It's just that the students in Class A are more decisive. Quote. After the USJ incident, people who feel a higher realm themselves have experienced people who are truly terrifying. Find a way to survive the desperate crisis. Those experiences have turned into food for their spirits, helping them to eliminate the confusion in their hearts. Listening to Olmut's speech, the cowboy man smiled and continued. Now the second one seems to be a little interesting, and I have not been in a hurry since the beginning. Quote. Well, he's calm. Olmut added. I have a little impression of this student. That is, the principal of the last USJ incident has been praising the powerful student. It seems to be called Merlot. Merlot Cloud Wind. Olmut calmly replied. Yes, it's Merlot Yunfeng. I heard about it last time, but he assisted Olmut to deal with the enemy together. The professional hero laughed. He is the strongest in Class A. Olmut said softly. Really, but I see that Andeva's son is not weak. The cowboy man teased. Many students have already reached the second level of the test, and the second level of the test is to go from the rope over the cliff and immediately get out once they fall. But Bang Zhao did not stop because of this difficulty. He jumped directly on the rope with one foot, and the next moment, the rope immediately froze. Then, he slid quickly over. And Yunfeng followed behind, thinking that this cliff did not exist at all, and walked directly as before. When the audience saw Yunfeng's action on the big screen, they all pinched a cold sweat for him. Is this student short-sighted? There's a cliff ahead. Quote. I don't dare to look at it. One spectator quickly blindfolded. It's really crazy. Quote. There should be a mat underneath. There should be, otherwise if you fall, you will definitely die. Just when everyone watching the big screen was pinching a cold sweat for Yunfeng. Just when Yunfeng's right foot was about to step out of the void, the next moment, above the cliff wall, a huge tree root suddenly jumped. This tree root spreads directly to the other side, while the cloud wind runs quickly along the vine. Seeing this situation, Bress and Mac cheered loudly. Wow, the students in Class A are very strong. It seems that the second level has little impact on them. Quote. Once again, the audience cheered enthusiastically. It scared me to death, I thought he was going to fall. Yes, I pinched a cold sweat for him just now. This year's Class A seems to be so strong. Yes, it seems that I didn't come in vain today. The difference between the first place and the second place and the third place is not very big, and they may be replaced at any time. The first place is the son of Andeva, the hero of fire. No wonder, it turned out to be the bloodline of the second strongest hero after Olmec. Seeing that the cloud wind also passed easily, he used his personality to blast and quickly flew over. The three of them soon reached the final level, and its true face was a large minefield. The minefields are arranged with such care that it is difficult to find out where the mines are buried if you do not look closely. This mine is not very powerful, because this mine is exclusively for competition, but the sound and explosion effect are absolutely shocking. Boom Zhao turned around and found that Yunfang was only 3 or 4 meters away from him. Even if a passage is opened for them next, there is no way around it. Boom Zhao Jia frowned. The next moment, he directly stepped on the ground with his right foot. Ah! Of a sound, a layer of cold ice covered the ground. Bang Scorching, on the other hand, quickens the pace and walks quickly on the ice. Although the scorching caused the ground to turn into ice. But if the cloud wind crushes the ice as before, then it will inevitably detonate the mines in the ground. If that's the case, then detonate them all. Yunfeng muttered, and then danced his hands upward. Underground, countless tree roots burst out. Some directly detonate mines, while others fly mines directly on the ground. Boom Frost found that it was not good, and quickly turned back and found that the explosion was slowly rushing towards him. Drink! Boom scorched and shouted, directly created an ice wall to block the wind wave of the explosion. Mines are not very powerful, so they cannot be broken up by scorched ice. Tightly for tens of seconds or so, this piece of thunder was directly detonated by the cloud wind. Pink smoke filled the surroundings directly. Wow! Brescent Mac exclaimed loudly, and then continued. Yunfeng's classmate in Class A is really crazy. Since in just a few tens of seconds or so, all the mines in this minefield were detonated. Quote. The next moment, exclamations sounded from the audience again. Did you hear the radio? 8,000,000 asked towards the Erlang Shangshang on the side. Well, Yunfeng detonated all the mines in the last level. Erlang Shangshang replied. Let's run. It is estimated that the group of people behind will also accelerate. 8,000,000 ways. Well, though, that Yunfeng guy is really crazy. Erlang sounded incensed. Isn't that in line with his personality? He's always been so crazy. 8,000,000 ran while a smile bloomed on his mouth. That said, it really seems like his style. Erlang sounded incensed. And at this time, minefields. As the cloud wind detonated all the mines in the minefield, pink smoke had covered the road ahead. Now you can go with peace of mind. Yunfeng muttered and trotted forward. For him, winning or losing is not very important, moreover, he runs all the way, all with the mood. I never thought about being first. Make do with them, just make appearances. Ah! At this time, Bakugao defeated himself, fell from the sky, and shouted. You two smelly boys, don't have so much fun. The first is mine. Quote. While speaking, Bakugao immediately surpassed Yunfeng. Yunfeng smiled casually, but did not speed up to catch up. After a while, he came back to his senses and immediately ran quickly towards the tunnel. At this time, Midoriya Idhisa is very behind, and if he does not speed up, he will inevitably be eliminated in the first round. Nope. In this way, it is destined to be eliminated in the first round. Quote. Midoriya Izuku said, his head began to run at high speed. There's no way, if you don't use one for all, you will be eliminated in the first round, and you can only gamble. Quote. Immediately, Midoriya Izuku's legs leaked streaks of colored light particles, and with a snort, he ran directly towards the front. Originally, he frowned, but the next moment he saw that his feet were not eaten back, and he was a little ecstatic. Because, he won the bet. The next moment, Brescent Mac shouted into the microphone. Shangying Sports Festival, Year 1 Division, at this moment, the first man to return to the stadium, Boom scorched and afraid. Quote. As Brescent Mac's voice fell, the cheers of the audience once again rang out enthusiastically. Then, the second place, Bakugao Shengji, and the third place Yunfeng also returned to the stadium one after another. After a while, a large group of people also returned to the stadium. Year 1 division, the first project is finally over, so let's see the final result. Midnight gesture. The next moment, on the big screen, everyone's ranking appeared. The first round of qualifiers is in the top 42. As the sound of midnight fell, the 42nd place collapsed instantly, and the lucky one who happened to be 42nd let out a long breath. Although there are some regrets, the eliminated students do not need to be discouraged, and the school has prepared other stages for you to show yourself. Midnight comforted with a smile. Class A only eliminated a few, and the rest basically entered the main competition. From now on, the media will also be crazy for your performance, behave well. Many of the people who entered the main competition leaked a hint of joy, because for them, this sports festival is a good opportunity to expose themselves. Such an opportunity is very rare, so they are fully prepared to meet this opportunity. Next, it's the second project. Midnight said, flicked the leather whip in his hand, and the next moment, the big screen turned again. That's it, horseback battle. Quote, horseback fighting. This is the above thing again. Yunfeng muttered with a slightly puzzled look on his face. Don't you know? Tenya Iida next to Yunfeng asked curiously. Yunfeng shook his head. Tenya Iida saw that the opportunity had come, and this time it was a great opportunity to regain his relationship with Yunfeng. The so-called horseback riding battle is a project of teamwork. How to compare, then it depends on what the rules of the school are. Iida said slowly. Group battle. Yunfeng was slightly disappointed, because he still preferred to fight more individually. Good oil, Yunfeng-san. Iida said seriously. Yunfeng nodded. Seeing that Yunfeng didn't let himself roll, Iida Tenya couldn't help but be happy in his heart. Let me explain to you that the competition requires participants to freely form teams of 2 to 4 people to form horses. The rules are basically the same as the horseback riding battles that everyone usually plays. The only difference is, each contestant will be given a score corresponding to the position achieved in the previous event. Quote, the rule is that the team that achieves the highest score can advance, and the first place in the previous project is given 10 million points. As soon as Midnight's words were finished, everyone greedily set their eyes on Booming Frosty. I can't wait to eat him in one bite. 10 million. As long as you kill the horse who is in first place, no matter what the ranking, you can instantly reach the first place. Midnight leaked a smile and said, that's right, this is a life and death battle in which the higher the ranking, the more vulnerable it is to be attacked. Now I will explain to you the rules of the competition. The race is limited to 15 minutes, and the sum of the points you are assigned adds up to the score of the whole horse. Riders wear turbans that indicate the score of war horses on their heads, and runners have to snatch other people's turbans with all their might before the time is up. In the end, the winner is determined by the points held, but the snatched bandana must be worn above the neck. That means the more you grab, the harder it is to manage. And then the most important point is that whether your own turban is robbed, or the war horse falls apart, it will not be eliminated. Midnight said a lot. Teacher, can I use personalities for competitions? Tenya Iida asked. Midnight nodded and said with a smile, of course it is allowed. However, after all, he is only a horse battle, and a vicious attack aimed at defeating the formation of the war horse will be shown a red card and sent directly off the field. Quote, next, give you 15 minutes to freely negotiate in a team, and the countdown begins. Freedom to form a team. Yunfeng muttered, not knowing who to look for as a teammate. Just when Yunfeng was just thinking about who to team up with, the next moment, a large group of people walked to Yunfeng's side. Yunfeng, team up with me. Count me in. It should be me, right? These people all cast an expectant look towards Yunfeng. There is no doubt that in their eyes, as long as they can team up with Yunfeng, then they will win this game. I'm sorry, I don't quite understand what your personality is. Yunfeng rebuffed everyone in one gulp. The people who asked Yunfeng were all dumbfounded. Yunfeng's words hit them quite hard. After all, they were all classmates who had experienced life and death. You don't know about Class B, it seems that you didn't pay attention to the classmates around you at all. One of them left with a disappointed look on his face. Don't say that you don't know what the personalities are. Yunfeng didn't even remember a few of their names. Originally, He just wanted to ask again, but after thinking about it, forget it, otherwise, he would have to insert a knife in their hearts again. The others saw that there was no hope, so they ran to team up with others. Suddenly, a voice sounded in Yun Feng's ears again. You know my personality. Yun Feng subconsciously looked over. It was 8,000,000 who said this, and standing next to her was Erlang Shangshang. You want to team up with me? Yun Feng asked suspiciously. 8,000,000 Bai nodded, and then continued. After all, we have partnered before, and we have some tacit understanding with each other. Quote. Okay, but I have no interest in the first. For me, as long as I don't get eliminated, this will not delay your mood to win the first. Yun Feng said slowly. Our goal is to, as long as we don't get eliminated. 8,000,000 smiled slightly. You plus me, and this, what's it called? Yun Feng asked towards Erlang Shangshang. Erlang Shangshang suddenly glanced at Yun Feng with wide eyes, having been in the same classroom with him for so long. Since this product still does not know what its name is his sense of existence so thin? At this point, Erlang Shangshang couldn't help but start to doubt. Erlang Shangshang said a little embarrassed. Okay, Hibika-san. Yun Feng reluctantly squeezed a smile on his face. Snap. 8,000,000 Bai reached out and patted Lang Shangshang's shoulder, and said with a smile, you don't know, this guy often sleeps, rarely negotiates with us, and it's normal not to know the name. Quote. That's right, Yun Feng added, and a few seconds later, he quickly asked, there are only 3 people now, and there is still one shortage, have you recommended it? Quote. Just as Yun Feng finished saying this, a heavy voice sounded behind him. Jean, let me join you too. Quote. Yun Feng subconsciously turned his head, but found that a man similar to a child appeared in his line of sight. His hair is about the same as a grape, and his body is short, that's right, he is Minoru Minda. Yun Feng had a little impression of him, and from what he said before, Yun Feng could basically judge that this thief was. Sorry, we're full. 8,000,001 mouthfuls rejected Minoru Minda. 1, 2, 3. Isn't it one left? Mineta asked. Who said that there are only 3, and there is not one more? Erlang Shangshang pointed to the tailed white ape next to him and said. Tailed white ape personality. Tail, with a strong tail, can assist in combat and do various other things. The appearance is no different from ordinary people, the only thing is that there is an extra tail. The tailed white ape man smiled slightly at Yun Feng and said, Hello, Yun Feng-san, it's really an honor to team up with you. Quote. Seeing this scene, Mineta had to leave silently. There is no need to say that, which of you is going to be a writer? Yun Feng asked. The 3 of them paused and asked in unison. How? It's not you. They looked at Yun Feng suspiciously. I should, Yun Feng said with a slight shock. The 3 looked at him and nodded. After all, they had pinned all their hopes on Yun Feng. However, Yun Feng is not very interested in this writer. Don't look at the writer seems to be the easiest job. In fact, he not only has to snatch other people's turbans, but also protect his own. In this way, the writer is the least cost-effective. Forget it, let's discuss who will be the writer for the 3 of you. Yun Feng smiled slightly. But, if we did, might we? Before 8,000,000 could speak, Yun Feng interrupted. Could lose. With me, you can rest assured, although it will not be the first, but it is definitely not right to be eliminated. Quote. Yun Feng looked at them with an absolute twinkle in his eyes. For Yun Feng's words, they did not feel that this was nonsense, but they firmly believed everything Yun Feng said all the time. Or I'll do it, 8,000,000 Bai said calmly. Erlang Shangshang and the tailed white ape nodded, indicating that they had no opinion. Okay, she asked Yun Feng again. Yun Feng chuckled. I said it all, any 3 of you can be. Quote. Well, that's it. The corners of 8,000,000 Bai's mouth raised slightly, and there was a little excitement in his heart. Most of the audience was only paying attention to Office A, Y. And just like Tai J said, the tails of the guys in Class A all went to the sky, which is ridiculous. Quote. Where are they different from us? Isn't it just fighting the enemy? Let's let the self-righteous Class A understand it well. Quote. Why is our Class B in the qualifiers? Everybody. Izuma Ningren leaked a confident smile and brainwashed his team. That's right, this man named Monoma Ningren is the one who asked Yun Feng's question last time. His team listened to Mono Maninto's speech, and their hearts began to boil and shouted. That's right, Class A is really too arrogant, it's time to let them understand that our Class B is not so easy to mess with. With the 15-minute countdown on the big screen, the fool arrived at 0-100 and made a ding. The professional hero standing on the stage moved his muscles at midnight while saying to the group of students in front of him, "Okay, it's finally time to start." After Midnight's voice fell, commentator Brescent Mac roared. After 15 minutes of team negotiations and pre-battle discussions, there are 12 horses waiting in the center of the field. Phew. In the audience, there was another enthusiastic cheer. Aizawa, who was sitting next to Brescent Mac, glanced at everyone in the arena, and the next moment, muttered, "There are several quite interesting combinations." Quote. And Yunfeng's side also began to prepare. Yunfeng and Erlang Shangshang put one hand on the shoulder of the tailed white ape Fu. And 8,000,000 sat on the hands of Yunfeng and Erlang Shangshang, holding the shoulders of the tailed white ape with one hand. A faint fragrance spread to Yunfeng's nose, and it was obvious that it came from the body of 8,000,000. "Okay, let's go," Midnight shouted loudly. Hearing the two words at the beginning, 8,000,000 Bai excitedly shouted, "Attack!" Quote. However, in the next second, Yunfeng immediately stopped, "Attack! If you attack now, it will be a human war." Quote. Yes, if 12 teams mix together, it's going to be a mess. The tailed white ape expressed agreement with Yunfeng's statement. Yes, too. Listen to you, 8,000,000 Bai said calmly. In fact, we don't have to worry, wait for them to fight to death and me first, we will watch, after the score is lower than the 4th place, it is also possible to act. Yunfeng said slowly. Okay, listen to you, 8,000,000 ways. It was clear that at the beginning of the game, everyone rushed towards the scorching freeze. Because, the temptation of 10 million is really too great, who wants to take it, in 10 minutes, then the first will be in hand. But many people in other classes did not expect that this first place is very risky. Yunfeng's team was quietly watching them grab the first place. In the next second, he directly created a thick wall of ice, completely protecting his team. The others first smashed a few times towards the ice wall, but after finding that the ice wall was not so easy to break, they gave up. Shift your sights to someone else. Tread. With the sound of heavy footsteps, the team of Izuma Ningren walked towards Yunfeng. Let's start with this team. Their personalities have been carefully observed in the first round, basically of little use for this horse riding battle, we win steadily. Izuma Ningren confidently leaked a smile. Class A is really naive. In fact, in the first round of the competition, we are just to observe the personality of the players. That's right, are the people in Class A still thinking that we are weak? Thinga Ninto laughed softly and said, "Now, it's time for us to correct their thoughts." Quote. At this moment, I saw the 8,000,000 people walking towards him. I couldn't help but ask Yunfeng what to do next. A team from Class B came. Yunfeng sneered and said, "Then there is no way, although I don't want to participate so quickly, but I actually find death, then we can only send them down." Quote. Hearing Yunfeng's laughter, the three of them shivered inexplicably. Yunfeng, you, don't mess around, it's a horseback ride. 8,000,000 instructed. Yes, yes, yes. That's right, the tailed white ape said with an embarrassed smile. The so-called mess in your mouth. What do you mean? Yunfeng asked suspiciously. That is, you don't maliciously attack others, or beat someone to death. 8,000,000 explained. Yunfeng chuckled. Do you think I will be that kind of person? Quote. The scene was suddenly silent, everyone was considered acquiesced, in their eyes, with Yunfeng's character, it was difficult to say. You guys. Yunfeng was speechless for a moment, and after a few seconds of pause, he continued, okay. Quote. Everyone be careful, they are coming. At this time, 8,000,000 shouted. Your combination is very bad for this horseback riding battle. Monoma Ninto said with a smile towards Yunfeng's team. Yes. Then you have to try it out to find out. Not to be outdone, 8,000,000 said. Thingma Ningren looked at them with contempt and said with a smile, alas, are you all so virtuous? Drag them all to the sky. Quote. Yunfeng frowned when he heard this. Originally he just wanted to snatch their turbans and it was over, but now listening to his tone, Yunfeng changed his mind. Up, Kill them, Yunfeng said in a deep voice. Similarly, when the tailed white ape heard the words of Ningren in Monoma, he was naturally very angry. Okay, give them some color and they'll see. Saying that, Yunfeng's team rushed directly over, and 8,000,000 sat on it, shaking. At this moment, she regretted a little, when her brain was hot as a rider. The tailed white ape directly used his tail to flick over, but the Monoma ninja side was not panicked at all. The next moment, one of the people in their team, in his mouth, exhaled a breath, instantly solidified the air, forming a wall. Snap! With a bang, the tail of the tailed white ape struck inside the transparent wall. The tailed white ape quickly retracted, and couldn't help frowning. No, my attack was blocked by another person's personality. Quote. Let me come. 8,000,000 Baigang wanted to create something, but was immediately stopped by Yunfeng. Lie down, I'll come. 8,000,000 Balin nodded subconsciously. Yunfeng's left hand turned into a wooden system, clenched his fist, and directly punched them. Over to you, Thinga Ninto said with a slight smile towards his teammate. No problem. The man chuckled, then let out a breath at a time, solidifying the air and turning it into a wall. Yunfeng's fist went straight to that wall, and the next moment, he only heard a click, and he burst this wall with one punch. Izuma Ningren's group was taken aback suddenly, and the next moment, he quickly blocked it in front of him with his hand. Snap! If it weren't for his teammates dragging Moma Ninto's feet, it is estimated that he would have flown out upside down. It's okay, Kanama Ninto. One of the teammates asked. Izuma Ningren frowned, his whole body shivered, an ordinary punch, since he could reach this point. It's not a big deal, but I just can't use one hand. Thingma Ningren endured the pain and gritted his teeth. Hearing the words of Ningren in the world, the people in the team on their side looked puzzled, and they all looked towards his hand. At this time, it was discovered that the bone of the left hand of the Monoma ninja was broken, and the whole hand swayed with the wind. This guy, one punch not only burst the wall I made, but also broke the hand of Izuma Ninto. Quote. How so, didn't you just say that you won steadily? One of the female teammates asked. Don't mess around, Thingma Ninto muttered, now he cares not about this at all, but about whether he can copy his personality. After all, the last time, copying personalities failed. Sure enough, when he wanted to use Yunfeng's ability, he couldn't use it. What the hell is going on here? Why can't it be copied? Thingma Ningren erected, gritting his teeth angrily. At this moment, because the bone of his left hand was broken, the strong pain made his face condense dense beads of sweat. In addition, he just couldn't copy Yunfeng's personality, so at this moment, his mood soared. Thing Ning said without a hideous face. It's okay, Izuku Ningren, the man who could freeze the air asked suspiciously. Ningren frowned, and then said in a deep voice, I miscalculated, I don't know why, I can't copy the personality of that kid just now. Quote. The crowd was flabbergasted. There is even a personality that cannot be copied. Yes, that's too weird. Now it's not this that matters, it's what to do next. Ningren wiped the sweat from his face, and said slowly, to deal with this pair, we have no way at all, if we continue to entangle, we will inevitably be robbed of the turban by them. Quote. I know, let's run. The man who could freeze the air said softly. But the team on Yunfeng's side certainly won't give him a chance. The opportunity has come, 8,000,000. Yunfeng shouted. I see, 8,000,000 replied. The tailed white ape quickly rushed over, and at this moment Yunfeng also used Mu Duan's ability. At their feet, dozens of small tree roots popped out and wrapped around their feet. Immediately after, it began to get bigger, making them immobile. It's over, can't move, Monoma Ninto's teammate frowned and said. In a matter of seconds, 8,000,000 directly ripped off the turban of the Ningren of Monoma. Who is naive now? Rookie, oh, I'm sorry to say it's wrong, you're not even as good as a rookie at least has cognition, and you don't have cognition at all. Yunfeng said coldly. Although they are very reluctant now, there is nothing they can do. Let's go and snatch the next person. Tailed white Apifufu. No need, you look at our score, 1960 is in second place, and the third place is more than 800, and then it's the same as the method of scorching. Yunfeng said softly. The next moment, he danced his left hand, and on the ground, a thick wooden wall suddenly popped up. Okay, then let's wait quietly for the time to come. 8,000,000 smiled slightly. Classmate Yunfeng, you were really powerful, since you burst that glass-like thing with one blow. The tailed white ape praised. No, it's not that I'm powerful, it's that they're too weak. Yunfeng said calmly. Indeed, Yunfeng's punch just now was made under inconvenient circumstances, and if he had gone all out, it was estimated that the Ningren would not have his eyes open. If you praise you can't be modest. Yunfeng-san, 8,000,000 teased. I've always been humble. Monitor, Yunfeng said with a slight smile. But it is also true that Yunfeng has always been a low-key one. You must know that his current strength has exceeded that of many professional heroes. If it is shown, I don't know how many people will be stunned. As the minutes passed, Bress and Mac's shouts rang out. The second project, the horseback battle, is over. The audience exclaimed, and Yunfeng subconsciously glanced at the big screen. The ranking has not changed much. Boomfrost is still first, while he is second, Bakugao is third, and Green Valley is fourth. It can be counted that this time all the promotion matches were taken by the people of Class A. Bress and Mac's voice sounded again. Then let's take a look at the top 4 teams in science. Quote, first place Boom Squad, second place, 8,000,000 Squad, third place Bakugao Squad, fourth place, Green Valley Squad. Quote, now, the morning game is over, enter the lunch break of an hour or so. Yunfeng, let's go to dinner together, shall we? 8,000,000 asked. Yes, celebrate well, we won second place. The tailed white ape said with a smile. Yes, Yunfeng-san, together, Hibika also asked. As you wish, Yunfeng said calmly. As the lunch break was over, the audience returned to the audience. Okay, the lunch break is over, and it's finally time to announce the last project. However, before that, I have good news to tell the students who were eliminated in the qualifiers. This is a sports festival after all. So the school has long prepared entertainment programs that everyone can participate in. The so-called entertainment is cheerleading, dancing, and something like that. Soon, after the time for entertainment, Bress and Mac explained the rules of the next project. There are 4 teams that have advanced, with a total of 16 players to play a one-on-one actual elimination match. A one-on-one showdown. I like this one more. A smile leaked from the corner of Yunfeng's mouth. The next moment, the big screen has already allocated a place for the one-to-one match. Yunfeng looked up at the big screen, and he found his name in the first line. I'll see, I'm going to fight against Shangming Electric. Yunfeng muttered to himself. For this person, Yunfeng had a little impression in his mind. Squad leader, Shangming Electric seems to be our class, right? Yunfeng then asked towards the 8,000,000 next to him. 8,000,000 glanced at Yunfeng speechlessly, and said helplessly, Yunfeng waits for you to be free, can you negotiate with everyone? Quote. As he spoke, 8,000,000 Bai stretched out his hand and pointed towards Shangming Electric. Yunfeng smiled slightly. Oh, it turns out that his name is Shangming Electric. Quote. At this moment, Shangming Electric was trembling as he looked at the big screen. May, Merlot Cloud Wind, what kind of evil have I made? It is a completely overwhelming battle. Shangming Electric said in a hushed voice. In the next second, he looked in the direction of Yunfeng, and Yunfeng was also looking at him at this moment. After staring at each other for a second, Yunfeng smiled slightly and stretched out his hand to say hello to Shangming Electric. Seeing Yunfeng's smile, Shangmingdian's entire body began to stiffen. Time passed minute by minute, and finally the moment of war came. In the corner of the ring, a column of flames erupted, followed by Bress and Mac reappeared inside the big screen. He shouted, Audience, your long-awaited final project is finally about to begin. Quote. In the first round, the Hero Comelo Cloud Wind battle is also the Shangming Electric of the Hero section. The rules are very simple. Completely use the use of the opponent to fall out of the field, incapacitate or force him to take the initiative to say I admit defeat even if he wins. There's no need to be afraid of getting hurt, because our recovery girls are always on the sidelines, so let's put aside the moral and ethical shackles for a while. But, of course, moves that endanger the life of an old opponent will be judged as a serious foul and disqualified on the spot. Because heroes will only go all out to catch the enemy. Quote. Bress and Mac explained loudly, and the cement division on the other side also added, "When someone fouls, I will stop it." Quote. And the next moment, Yunfeng and Shengming Electric had already come to the ring. Shengming Electric looked a little flustered. After all, Yunfeng was the most powerful person in his class, and the pressure was quite great. The cloud wind on the other side was as calm as ever, without a trace of panic. Shengming Electric took several deep breaths of cool air, recovered his mood, and said towards Yunfeng. "Classmate Yunfeng, please advise. Come on to each other. Cloud Wind Channel. The game begins." Bress and Mac shouted. Shengming Electric instantly rushed towards Yunfeng, and yellow lightning gathered in his hand. When he was about to reach Yunfeng's side, he jumped forward, and the thunder and lightning condensed in his hand smashed towards Yunfeng. Is personality a thunderbolt? It doesn't feel good to be electrified, I have to keep him from approaching. Yunfeng quickly pushed away a few times. Immediately danced with his hands facing up, and the next moment, a thick wooden wall was directly raised from the ground. "I knew it would be like this," Shengming Electric muttered, then quickly landed on the ground, jumped up again, and climbed over the wooden wall. However, behind the wooden wall, he did not see the figure of Yunfeng. He was stunned for a moment and quickly scanned the surroundings. At this moment, under his feet, dozens of slender tree roots burst out and wrapped directly around his feet. He suddenly realized that something was wrong and wanted to escape, but he was still one step late. After the roots of the tree were entangled, it began to grow larger, and finally spread towards the sky, and in the blink of an eye, a standing tree appeared in the middle of Lei Tuo. Shengming Electric only leaked a face, and he was frightened in the face of such a blow from Yunfeng. For Yunfeng's blow, not only the audience in the audience, but also some professional heroes were obviously taken aback. What a personality this is. Quote, "Wow, good, that's awesome." Quote, "It seems that the students of Hero Class A tonight are very strong. This is also terrible. The student inside should be fine." Quote, "Because it's okay, you see, didn't he leak a face? It is estimated that this big tree just blocked his movement." "What's the student's name? It seems to be called something, Merlot Yunfeng." Yunfeng-san is still as scary as ever. The corner of the tailed white ape's mouth trembled a few times. Shengming Electric looks like I'm going to be frightened. 8 million said slowly. "This fool, there is value in slaughter," Bakugao Katsuki said in a deep voice. Ah! At this moment, Yunfeng fell from the sky and fell in front of Shengming Electric, then turned around and said with a slight smile, "I won." Shengming Electric admits defeat. A class Mero Yunfeng advances to the second round. Midnight announced loudly. The audience exclaimed. At this time, in the audience, there are rows of professional heroes, and the reason they come to watch the sports festival is simple. That is to attract the students you fancy to come to your own office. The student who can summon the big tree is really good, I have to consult with him afterwards. One of the professional heroes with a beast body looked at Yunfeng and leaked a greedy gaze. A masked female professional heroine sitting next to him heard this, and her eyes suddenly flashed with hostility. "No, you fancy it too. Both of you fancy it." The masked female professional hero looked at him and said in a deep voice, "Don't tell me, you also fancy it." Quote, "Of course, I like this student very much. The strong ones seem to be in demand." The org professional hero frowned. "Well, yes, then you better not go and woo the student who will summon the big tree." The masked female professional hero said, "This can't work, I both fancy it, if the two of them can follow me in the future, they will definitely have a great future." Org professional hero Dao. The second round of the match soon began, and the opponents were Bakugao Katsuki vs. Tailed White Ape. The result is obvious, and the natural thing that can advance is to win the big oneself. However, in the later game, Yunfeng found a very interesting thing. However, compared to Mu Duan's ability, her personality is hardly comparable. And at this time, outside the arena, the mountain woman happily beckoned to Shenwei in the dense forest, Mr. Shenwei, Mr. Shenwei. Quote, the dense forest god who was patrolling turned around suspiciously and looked at the mountain woman. "I see another child who is suitable to be your assistant." Dense forest Shenwei raised his head and looked towards the big screen, and at this time, the girl with the vine personality that appeared on the screen was naturally the girl. "Oh, I didn't look at it just now, I don't know what her ability is." Dense forest, Shenwei said softly. Stop looking, hurry up and get to work. As for the assistant, I already have someone in mind. Dense forest, Shenwei said. The mountain lady turned around, looked at the dense forest Shenwei, and said with disdain, the candidate in your mind is the student named Merlot Yunfeng. I also watched his game just now, and it is very powerful. Quote. You're right, dense forest Shenwei said calmly. Finally coming, finally coming. Bakugao Katsuji leaked a shocked smile. With his steps, he slowly walked to the ring. Bakugao Katsuji was very excited this time, he wanted to challenge Yunfeng a long time ago. But I never found an opportunity, and today, it was a godsend. In the second round of the competition, Class A Mellow Yunfeng will fight against the same Class A and has been famous since junior high school. Bress and Mac shouted, I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.